Okay, let's talk through all these golf events that you have coming up.
Gabby, I'm glad you asked. Got my calendar right here. July 17th at Red Run, and then July 31st, I have the American Golf Outing for the Cancer Society.
I also have the American Cancer Society golf outing on the 31st, and also I got yours on the 18th, but he'll
Yeah, I'm gonna be there.
Whoa, boys, these are a lot of events and golf outings.
Well, you want me to miss my own golf tournament?
Gabby, they're all great calls.
I mean, this is
Hold on. I got this. Guys, I got this. Don't worry about it. Hold on a second.
He always.
Hey guys. Thank you for coming so fast. How are ya? Remember the guys from Randy Wise, right? Sir. The Randy Wise Celebrity Golf Tour.
Watch for the eye.
Stay tuned.
It's the Randy Wise Celebrity Golf Tour. Some of the biggest names in Michigan sports, and some, well, not so much. Brought to you in part by Premier Security Solutions, Fairway Packing Company, and Swiss Insurance. Watch episodes at woodwardsports.com. Good morning, everybody. This is the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Your host, per usual, Jeff Iafrate, and alongside me, my partner in crime, Sam Flannel. Sam, how you doing this Tuesday?
I'm good, man. Before the show, I was talking with our good buddy Lucas, who's been working in the.
You were talking to him?
Yeah, in the technical director booth. Sort of learning under Alex Westfall. We were talking about how chill mornings are and how they're not appreciated enough. It's not always fun to wake up super early, but once you get on the road, there's no traffic. You get in the building, it's nice and chill. We've got a great group of people here. I love it, man.
I absolutely love the mornings, and I absolutely love every single one of you for choosing us on this Tuesday morning to tune in. We got JB back. JB, we missed you so much, man. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. I really do appreciate it. Oh, man, I'm getting some weird echo in my background.
See, JB, for anybody that doesn't know, JB is he's the heart and soul. I mean, this man holds it down. We didn't have him yesterday. We had some audio issues, but he is back, so we're happy to have him back. And he's got the Motown drip on, the Motown. What does that say? Motown
Monty.
What?
Oh,
That's Woodward Sports.
Yeah.
You guys got to go check out the store. The merchandise just keeps getting better. I can't believe it. In the booth, Alex and Lucas, per usual. But we got a packed show for you guys today. We're going to start off, because we didn't really get to address it yesterday, the Bradley Beal trade to the Phoenix Suns. What does it mean for the Phoenix Suns? What does it mean for the Denver Nuggets? And is this a team that potentially could knock the Denver Nuggets off of getting their potential second championship? We're also going to talk about Draymond Green, and I want to just clear some of those rumors up, because I saw, not only Pistons Twitter, but just Twitter going wild yesterday. He declined his player option with the Golden State Warriors. So I want to speak about that a little bit. We do have some interesting statistics to get to later in the show. Our good friend, who also helps us out with the morning show, Alex, he's our stat guy. He found an interesting statistic about Jared Goff, and you're gonna want to wait and see what it is, and we're gonna discuss that. And we're also gonna bring up the PFF article, which ranked the Lions wide receiver core. And I'm not going to say where they're ranked, but man, we got to discuss that, because I didn't get to talk to you about it, Sam, before the show, but I can't wait to get your thoughts on it. And then, of course, the NBA draft is this Thursday, so we're going to get into more of not all draft talk, but towards the end of the show, just look at some of the favorites to go to the Pistons per FanDuel. So a lot to discuss today, but we'll start with Bradley Beal to the Phoenix Suns. And when this first happened, at least when Bradley Beal was, it was pretty much announced that he would be exploring trades. He has the only no-trade clause in the NBA.
Bradley Beal, of all people.
Think about that for a second. Bradley Beal, and I'll say it again, Bradley Beal has the only no-trade clause in the NBA. How did this man, shout out to his agent, number one, for getting that implemented in his contract. But of course it's with the Washington Wizards. I'm not shocked by that. But they finally found a partner for him, and of course Matt Ishbia has the biggest balls on planet Earth. That's another thing I learned. He gets KD, he gets Bradley Beal, and now the Phoenix Suns only have 5 players under contract at this very moment. They have Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton, and Cameron Payne.
Oh.
That's it. They have 5 players. And, of course, if you guys have checked out the new CBA at all, it pretty much prevents teams like the Suns from doing this. But Matt Ishbia looked at that CBA and said, "Yeah, you can kiss my ass. I'm gonna go get Bradley Beal." But also, it restricts them from trading their draft picks. Like, the CBA is legit. It's legit, and clearly Matt Ishbia doesn't give a damn. He went out and got Bradley Beal. Bradley obviously waived his no-trade clause to go to the Suns. It was reported also that James Jones, the GM of the Suns, and just Suns ownership, Matt Ishbia, they requested that he remove that no-trade clause, and he denied it. He wants to keep it, which, fair to him. Why would you?
Absolutely.
You have the only no-trade clause in the NBA. I'm not getting rid of it. So shout out to the Suns for getting that done. Isaiah Thomas works up at the front office with Matt Ishbia, so a lot of love for that man as well. But I'll just go through the trade details, and then I'll get your thoughts on what it means for the Suns. So the Wizards send Bradley Beal to the Suns, and the Suns send back Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, several second-round picks and pick swaps. And also the Wizards threw in guard Jordan Goodwin and forward Isaiah Todd. So they got a couple role players in there. But you look at Chris Paul, and right now the trade hasn't been completed because they need a third team to try and take Chris Paul, or they'll just buy him out. I'm expecting him to go back to LA. I think that would be the most likely destination for Chris Paul. But now the Suns, we look at what they did last season. They were aggressive. They went and got Kevin Durant, and I was a big fan of what the Suns did last year. I think it was too early for me to say they'd go win a championship, but I like the pieces they have. Now with Bradley Beal, Sam, and I can't believe I'm saying this because on paper, that's a hell of a team.
Sure.
But if we're talking NBA champions, I watched the Denver Nuggets just win an NBA championship against the Miami Heat. Yes, because of Jokic. Yes, because of Jamal Murray. But, Sam, a lot of it had to do with the role players as well. And that's something the Phoenix Suns with the new CBA, they're already over the cap. They're not going to be able to get the type of impactful role players that Denver Nuggets got. So depth is a problem with the Suns, Sam.
Depth is a problem, but I will be honest. I think I like this trade more than most people do for the Phoenix Suns. First of all, what did they give up? They gave up Landry Shamet, who is a sub 40% shooter last year, and I don't really value him much at all. And Chris Paul, who last season, believe it or not, had his least points per game average throughout his entire career. Even his rookie season, he averaged more points per game. Chris Paul is 100% done being a impact player, or at least like a high-end impact player for me. And the one thing about Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker as a trio that I thought was very, very interesting, and I brought it up briefly yesterday. All 3 of those players last season had their career highs in field goal percentage. Bradley Beal at 51%, which is excellent. Devin Booker 49%, and Kevin Durant with an absolutely absurd 56%. And all 3 of them, and I know one of the concerns about this team is who's going to play point guard, who's going to be a playmaker. All 3 of those players averaged 5 or more assists last season. So they all are capable of doing it, and they all can do it when they're asked to. And I don't think it's just going to be all of them playing iso ball all season. I think that it's going to be how would I describe it? A lineup of buckets. I will just say that. 3 of some of the best bucket getters in the NBA all together. And not to mention, I know a lot of people don't like this guy right now, and a lot of people say that he's trash or doesn't have heart or anything like that. DeAndre Ayton, despite that, gave you 18 and 10 on 58% shooting last season. So he's a more valuable piece even now than I think people think. Do I think that they can beat the Nuggets with this as presently constructed? Not necessarily, but the Nuggets are just such a well-oiled machine, and they play such a team brand of basketball, and they have such an unselfish superstar in Nikola Jokic. I don't think the Phoenix Suns are beating them, but I think they're going to be better than last year. I don't think it's just going to be this team-destroying trade. I think it can work. Am I crazy?
Well, define work? NBA title? Win an NBA championship work?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because when you trade for Bradley Beal and create that kind of a big 3, it is championship or bust. And I literally just said 2 seconds ago, sorry for the use of literally, that they are not going to beat the Denver Nuggets. So I guess it won't.
By
it won't
default,
work.
that in your definition, and I would agree with you, by the way, it's a failure. And my biggest worry for the Suns is health. I mean, Kevin Durant is great of a scorer all time as he is. I mean, let's be real here. He's 34 years old. In the last 3 seasons, even last year, he played in 40-ish games, 47 to be exact. The previous season, 55. The previous season, 35. And then you get to Bradley Beal, who played in 50 last year, 40 the year before, and 60 the year prior, and then 57 the year prior to that. So these are 2 guys that, you know, health-wise, haven't been the most dependable.
That's true.
And you look at now their situation as the roster is currently constructed. I've seen too many of these situations fail. I just have. You talk about super teams in the modern era. Typically, when players combine and join forces, and you see a super team like the Miami Heat or the Golden State Warriors, there's a reason why those teams worked. LeBron, Steph Curry. There's a reason why the Brooklyn Nets big 3 didn't work. Kyrie, James Harden, more specifically Kyrie. But regardless, it's not just about talent. It's also about the right fit, but also the right players. Like in this situation, Devin Booker, KD, Bradley Beal, it's a weird combination of players that I'm interested to see how it works out. I just think the biggest problem is going to be health, and the other part will be depth. And I didn't even bring up Frank Vogel. Is Frank Vogel the guy to handle all that star power? Like, I could make an argument they should have kept Monty Williams for that specific reason, but I'm curious to see how this whole thing shakes out.
I mean, they should have kept Monty Williams in the first place. I never thought that he should have been fired, but thank you, Phoenix Suns, for the gift of Monty Williams to the Detroit Pistons. Frank Vogel, I mean, say what you want about him. He is a championship-winning coach, albeit with the LeBron and AD Lakers, but he had to manage some of those egos too, and he is a proven head coaching commodity. I don't know if it's necessarily the best fit for Frank Vogel, but I do think this'll work. I think they'll at least be good. I keep hearing from media entities throughout Michigan, through here, and throughout national media that it's just going to be this complete and utter disaster. They killed their depth, blah, 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 blah. My thing is, they gave up Landry Shamet and Chris Paul. I know that taking on Bradley Beal, he has one of the worst contracts in the NBA. I know that that's tough. And they've really hampered their ability to get depth players, which they did that last year anyway, and they gave up 2 of their best depth players, Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, to get Kevin Durant, and that obviously didn't work. But at this point, the Phoenix Suns are going all in, and I can't really blame them for that. And all 3 of those players are at the very least efficient scorers and capable playmakers. It's not like Russell Westbrook is on this team, or even Allen Iverson or somebody like that, an inefficient scorer. I like the efficiency.
And also, shout out to Ashton for joining the Morning Woodward Show chat thread. I know him and Kate are putting that work in. So shout out to Ashton. Much love, man. And also, I want to bring up that graphic, if you have it, the Stephon Diggs graphic, just quickly before we get to break. I want you guys to react to this. I saw this yesterday on social media. Stephon Diggs, are you kidding me? I mean, I thought we cleared this up with Stephon Diggs being a diva. Now the problem is Stephon Diggs is said to be frustrated with his role and wants a say in the play calling. You kidding me? So you can't just be one of the best wide receivers in the league in one of the best situations, Lucas? Is that a problem for Stephon Diggs?
I don't think it has anything to do with necessarily the volume he's getting or like that he's not getting enough. I think it's how the Bills are actually using him and how they're calling that offense, because we all know the Bills' ceiling is a Super Bowl like champion. That's their ceiling. They can very easily go out there and win a Super Bowl. But you go from AFC Championship to losing the divisional round against the Chiefs, and then you lose to the Bengals at home in the divisional round. And that team should no doubt not be in that position. They have Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. And I think we all expected a big season out of Gabe Davis last year, and we didn't see it. So I think it all is coming down to how McDermott, once they lost Vrabel and he went to, not Vrabel, Giants head coach. Dable.
Yeah, Brian Dable.
Once they lost Dable, that offense kind of looked a little wishy-washy. So I bet Stephon Diggs right now is kind of like, the hell are we doing more so what are you doing with me? That's why he wants to say in the play calling.
Yeah, like all that sounds great. Like it really does. Like all that sounds great. But if you look at Stephon Diggs over the last 3 seasons with the Buffalo Bills, the first year with Buffalo, he led the league in receiving yards. Like in targets, 166 targets in 2020, 164 targets in 2021, 154 targets in 2022, and he's had well over 1,200 yards in each of those seasons. One of them, obviously, his first season led the league in receiving yards, and just past this last season, 1,400 yards and double-digit touchdowns. It's a problem? Like, I don't understand, Stephon Diggs, what the issue is. You're on a contender, and you're still putting up league leading numbers.
Because he's on a contender, but they're not playing to their full ability on offense. Like, that offense should have a clear number one running back, but they were using Devin Singletary and James Cook. Like, this offense is very talented, but there's some obvious, like, nuts and screws loose with it, and I think that's what Stefan's trying to get together. He's like, look, there's no way that we should be getting bounced out in the divisional round to Joe Burrow at home, because we have Josh Allen and we have Stephon Diggs and we have a top 5-10 defense, however you want to rank it. So I think they're just, overall, he's just looking at coach, like, we need to change what we're doing, and I think I have a good way of doing it. Now, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I don't think this has anything to do with Stephon Diggs wanting more money or wanting the ball more. I think he's trying to get McDermott to spread the ball out differently, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but it also, I also don't understand from Stephon Diggs' perspective. I'm curious to see how this turns out, but I'm also curious for the insurance company I should pursue, Sam,
Absolutely.
if I need it.
You should definitely go to Swiss Insurance. It's the only insurance that you can have, because now that summer's here, it is important to make sure you are properly covered. Whether it's a grad party or just a group of people over to enjoy the lake or pool, your liability exposure increases significantly in summertime. Let the Swiss Insurance Group review your coverage and make sure you are protected from an unexpected loss. Check us out at swissins.com or call Mark today at 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
We are the network for Detroit, by Detroiters. Welcome to the Woodward Sports Network.
We're back. Morning Woodward Show, Woodward Sports Network. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, Lucas Klotz, all here on this Tuesday morning. And guys, especially Sam, because I want your thoughts on this. For all the Pistons fans out there, I know you saw the news yesterday. Saginaw native, Michigan State native, Draymond Green opts out of his player option for the Golden State Warriors. And I don't mean to poke fun at the whole conversation, but let's be real here. He opted out to re-sign with the Golden State Warriors. I mean, he opted out of a $27 million player option, which makes perfect sense if you want to make more money. Because Draymond signed that, I believe, in 2020 is when he signed that original contract, or 2019, around that time frame. And now it's been reported he's officially opted out. Rich Paul said that they're exploring different options. They're exploring re-signing with the Golden State Warriors. They're exploring a sign-and trade potentially with any other team. And I know there's going to be a pretty good market for Draymond Green, at least for contenders. They feel like Draymond would be that missing piece. And if you look at just what Steve Kerr said, his words, not mine, we are not a contender without Draymond Green. So I think the Warriors, they want Draymond back bad. And I think they'd even prefer Draymond over Jordan Poole, to be honest with you. I think they'd rather move Jordan Poole and re-sign Draymond than keep Jordan Poole and let Draymond walk. So for the Pistons fans' perspective, sorry to crap on the whole parade. I don't think it's happening. I don't think Draymond would be interested in even coming here to Detroit yet. I think they'd have to prove more before he's interested. Maybe they contend for a play-in. Maybe they make a play-in. Or they make the playoffs, hell. Who knows? And then he looks at the Detroit Pistons. I don't think he'd come here this early. And even if so, you're going to have to pay him around $30+ million for a multi-year deal. Sam Flannel, what are your thoughts on that? Number one, you think Draymond's re-signing? And then if you're the Pistons or if you're Troy Weaver, you interested in Draymond Green?
Is he re-signing with the Golden State Warriors? That's too early to tell, but I like the idea of that, and I think that is ultimately the best situation for him, because I think we all agree that Draymond Green really got drafted to the perfect situation. If he were drafted to another one, he might not have reached his apex as a player, as ultimately a future Hall of Famer and multiple-time champion, and one of the most important members of at least a couple of the championship teams. That is for damn sure. As far as the Detroit Pistons, when I first heard that rumor, my initial gut reaction was, oh, hell no, why would we need Draymond Green? But of course, whenever I see something like that, I think to myself, how could it work? Could this actually be a good thing? And Draymond Green, what are his strengths? Defense, playmaking, I would say. Would you agree with that? Defense and
agree.
playmaking. Draymond Green is one of the best defensive players of this generation. 2017 Defensive Player of the Year.
But defense doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame, though, Sam.
But I said playmaking.
No,
I said playmaking.
Okay, all right.
I
just
said
checking.
playmaking, and he also had a Game 7 of a Finals in which he dropped 32, 15, and 9, and Steph Curry choked. Just for the record, let's get that all in the record. That did happen. That did happen. But anywho, the Detroit Pistons, and I get that this is all a little bit skewed because Cade Cunningham was out for most of the season. They were 4th worst in points allowed per game, and Draymond Green would step right onto this team and be their best defensive player, I think, by far. And I know that the Pistons, you think, when it comes to playmaking, they've got guys who can distribute the ball. They've got Jaden Ivey, they've got Cade Cunningham, they've got Killian Hayes. Last season, actually, even though I'm not a huge fan of Killian Hayes, he did lead the team in assists with 6.2. And in Cade Cunningham's last full healthy season, he averaged 5.6. Draymond Green averaged 6.8 even last season and has had 8 consecutive seasons of averaging at least 6 assists per game. So Draymond Green, even though it's not necessarily a huge need, would come in and be the most established playmaker on this team. And not to mention, in the last 2 seasons, he has really bumped up his efficiency scoring the basketball. In the last 2 seasons, he has had a field goal percentage of over 52% for the first time in his career, by the way, which is all well and good. And of course, Draymond Green would provide that veteran leadership, that championship pedigree. The big question, obviously, is do you want to pay him a boatload of money? I probably would not, because one of the other, I would say, weaknesses of the Detroit Pistons is three-point shooting. The Detroit Pistons were bottom 10 in the NBA in three-point shooting last year, and Draymond Green is an absolutely horrific 31% through his career. So ultimately, after all of that spiel that I gave you, I would say no to Draymond Green, but I wanted to at least give a thought experiment on why it would work. And do I think he would make this team a little bit better? Sure, but worth the money? No.
And to Mr. Ray, his comment, love it. Draymond shoots like me when I turn the lights off in the bathroom and he has more gray in his beard than Terry Foster. That's fair. That's very fair. Because that's like the biggest, I guess, concern with Draymond is his lack thereof of his three-point shooting. It's just not impressive. But also he brings so much other value to the game. His IQ, his playmaking, defensively, his leadership on and off the court. Like, there's a lot of things that I think the Pistons would love from Draymond. I just don't know if he would be interested in coming to this situation yet. But we know with Monty Williams, they're more serious about winning. But I don't know if Draymond's the move. I think he re-signs with Golden State, or hell, if he doesn't resign with Golden State, maybe he goes to the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, the Phoenix
Suns. Maybe he takes it. If it's not about the money, you go to the Phoenix Suns. But again, if it's about the money, I think he returns to Golden State. But JB, Draymond Green, hate it, love it. Is it realistic? What are your thoughts on it?
Draymond Green to the Pistons.
Ooh.
I honestly cannot see that happening. I think that he will somehow figure out a way to go back to Golden State, because the Warriors did say they did want to try and keep him, but just the money was a little bit too much. So as far as Draymond to the Pistons go, that's not going to happen. And let's be real, we don't want to see a fight between him and Killian during practice. I'm just saying.
Can I address that, actually? And I'm about to say something maybe disparaging about Draymond Green after probably propping him up more than most in this room. There's actually consequences when you punch a teammate in the offseason. Oh, gee, I wonder, because I keep hearing about how, Jordan Poole kind of instigated the whole thing. It looked as if, according to their road record, that the Golden State Warriors had some chemistry issues, and maybe Draymond Green should not punch Jordan Poole in the face. And Jordan Poole, obviously, and I'm not saying it's because of this, Jordan Poole went from being a very valuable contributor to a championship team. He gave you 20 a game in the playoffs on 39% shooting, to basically completely choking and no-showing this postseason. So Draymond Green, all I'm saying is a lot of people gave him a pass for that. I did not. There's actually consequences for punching a teammate in the offseason. Gee.
Well, that whole situation, too. I mean, I know that's probably the biggest thing about Draymond is you look at his situation either with Jordan Poole or you look at his situation with Kevin Durant. And you know, he's not afraid of the smoke. I think we can all agree there with Draymond Green. He's very outspoken. And I think that the Pistons locker room, and Troy said it best, is he'd put that locker room up against anybody in the NBA. And if you haven't already, and you saw that the report about Monty Williams disliking coaching, you see that DeAndre and Jay Crowder. And I want to read this because it kind of applies to this as well, with just bringing in the right players. This is a report. This is the NBA Central, and it's actually per John Gambadoro, who works in Arizona for the Arizona media in that market. They said, quote, he told people Jay Crowder was too difficult to handle and coach. Monty didn't want Jay. It wasn't the Suns organization. He didn't want Jay around. As far as DeAndre and Monty didn't want him either. He wanted them to trade him to Indiana for Miles Turner. He didn't like coaching Ayton. So you just see this report now with Monty Williams. He didn't like coaching Jay Crowder. He didn't like coaching DeAndre Ayton. And now you understand why the reason when Troy told Monty, hey, we'll stack this locker room against anybody else in the NBA. You now understand why that was so enticing to Monty Williams, because he just got over he just left a headache in DeAndre Ayton, and then Jay Crowder, who was already departed for Phoenix. I think it's safe to say that you're not going to have to worry about anybody in that Pistons locker room. At least Troy can lay his head down at night and know that what they're doing off the court, you don't have to be concerned about, and they're going to work their asses off. So at least there's that. And Draymond Green, I think, adds to that. I know there's concerns with him and other teammates. I don't think that would be an issue, but with Draymond, I guess you really never know.
Yeah, with Draymond, he might just get mad at you one day and punch you. But no, I know what you mean. It was never really a character issue with Draymond Green. It was just sometimes he would let his emotions get the best of him. But you cannot deny his importance to the team overall. And it's funny, you mentioned I want to respond to something really quick. When you said about Monty Williams, how he didn't like coaching Jay Crowder, because you think about Jay Crowder as this consummate sort of 3-and-D guy that every winning team wants. But when you actually look at Jay Crowder's resume, he's never actually been a part of a championship team. I was actually surprised to see that. And he was one of the members of the Cleveland Cavaliers 2018 team that LeBron basically got traded at the offseason. Remember that, when they were kind of floundering and then they made that big trade? Jay Crowder was one of the ones that got traded. So maybe he's not this beacon of light and this beacon glue guy that people think that he is. No. I don't know.
No, and again, I just wanted to clear that up and make sure we got that straight. Draymond Green is not coming to Detroit, and we'd all expect him to re-sign with Golden State. But I do want to get to more, get to some NFL talk with the Detroit Lions. And the interesting stat I kind of hinted at the beginning of the show about Jared Goff, I want to get that out there when we come back from break and get your guys' thoughts on it. And I have an interesting question pertaining to Jared Goff, and maybe we can get an answer. Maybe not. But before we do that, I got to tell you about one of the elite defenses in Guardian Alarm. Because, guys, they got customized solutions from real experts, they got 24/7 professional monitoring, and they got technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's not only been proven to work, but by people that have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT for more information.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids, all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
We're back. The Morning Woodward Show, Woodward Sports Network. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, and Lucas Klotz. And don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Support the channel. But if you can, it's okay. You can go back and rewatch the show via any podcast app you have, Apple or Spotify. Leave a 5-star review for Sam and his wonderful flannels. Thank you. And don't forget, if you're watching on woodwardsports.com, for all the latest news, articles, updates, show clips, and merchandise, like JB's new merchandise, the Motown Monty shirt, which you can get on woodwardsports.com. That shirt is fire.
Just saying.
I can't even lie. And JB always has the newest merch. And I don't know, how many shirts do you have now of Woodward Sports merchandise? You got to have like 30.
Dude, of Woodward by themselves, at least probably the amount of flannel, same amount of flannel has.
Yeah, he's got 18. He's
18. I'm probably up there with like 20, 25
Damn.
shirts, probably. If we include sweaters too, yeah, I got a bunch.
Actually, JB, and I'm glad you're here. Lucas, could you pull up that I heard you were on the hunt for Taylor Swift this weekend.
What happened?
I heard you were on the hunt for Taylor Swift, and Lucas has the photo evidence. Can you confirm or deny that this is you?
I done gone country, y'all. JB, you let me down, man. I'm sorry. I just got done cutting the grass, and this is what I saw. I was disappointed, and if you didn't think it got worse.
Is this you? Is that you?
Let's go.
Let's go.
What's
He's posted up.
JB. Man, JV with the, what does that say? What does it say? Barbecue?
I believe it says barbecue, beer, and freedom.
My gosh, that is legendary, JB. By the way, JB, was that what you were doing? That's not what you were doing yesterday. That was this weekend.
No, that was this past weekend. That was Saturday. So it was a country bar crawl down in Royal Oak.
Let's go.
We just got together, had some fun, grabbed some cowboy hats, bandanas, as you can see, and we just had a good time.
Hey, I love it.
Little JBX.
Yeah. Now, I had to bring it up. I had to just confirm that was you. It is confirmed.
It is me.
JB was rocking it. It was a sick fit. JB was looking fresh. I wonder about, now that we kind of got that cleared up, this stat about Jared Goff, or it's not just Jared Goff, but it's quarterbacks that have made the Super Bowl that lost the Super Bowl. In the likelihood those quarterbacks are going to get back. Now, our stat guy for the morning show, Alex, does a great job, and he found this specific stat. It pertains to Jared Goff, and it writes, no quarterback who lost their first Super Bowl start has made it back to another one since Jim Kelly. Oh my gosh, Jim Kelly's probably like the worst example, by the way, because that man, we don't got to talk about that with Jim Kelly. And none have won one since John Elway. Goff, Jimmy G, Burrow, and Hurts are the four active starters who lost their first Super Bowl. So the question I have is between Goff, Jimmy G, Burrow, and Hurts. Now, those are the active starters. We didn't even get to just other quarterbacks that have never gotten back. And you could go through easily Matt Ryan, one of those guys, Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick, Donovan McNabb. Like there's a lot. It happens often, and it's not too many times that quarterbacks get a second chance. Only the elite do. Tom Brady, obviously, Patrick Mahomes, those guys that end up getting back to one and winning one. The question I have, and I'll keep it Detroit related, for Jared Goff, is this stat telling me that Jared Goff, more likely than not, will not get back to a Super Bowl?
No.
Or do you think he can change that narrative?
This stat is basically meaningless and more circumstantial. And here's what I use to go off of that. So Jared Goff, obviously, I wouldn't even say he led the Los Angeles Rams to the Super Bowl. He got more so carried, at least in the playoffs, by a stacked roster, although he did have a very, very good regular season that year. You know the players he was working with, prime Apex MVP level Todd Gurley, guys like Robert Woods, even pre-prime Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald on defense, of course, all of that. But last season, this is what Jared Goff did. Jared Goff led a top 5 offense. And by definition, if you lead a top 5 offense, that is, in some seasons, good enough to win a Super Bowl, or at least get to a Super Bowl. And the reason why they didn't go farther, the reason why they didn't make the playoffs on a macro level, even though the defense played better towards the end of the year, is because the defense ultimately, when it all is said and done, was bottom 5 in the NFL in points allowed. So by that definition, Jared Goff got let down by his defense, or the offense as a whole got let down by his defense. Because another crazy stat, the Detroit Lions were 5th in the NFL in points per game last year. They didn't make the playoffs, right?
Ooh, yep.
Every single other team that was in the top 10 made the playoffs, including, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles, who met up in the Super Bowl, and the Kansas City Chiefs ultimately ended up winning it. I understand that when you look at that stat and just show it in a vacuum, it looks pretty damning. But at the same time, I mean, do you really think that Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts are never going to get another shot at the Super Bowl? I don't.
No,
I think this stat is relatively meaningless. I'm not saying that it's likely that Jared Goff gets back and ultimately wins one. All I'm saying is that Super Bowls are complicated. It's not just, a quarterback, is he good enough to get you to the Super Bowl or not? A lot of it depends on what he has around him, the coaching staff, and even a little bit of luck at some points. And I know I use that for Tom Brady a lot, but what if you go into a playoff game and your defense, say, gives up 10 points, or like in the case of the Philadelphia Eagles, you pretty much injure every single quarterback on their roster. It's very, very complicated and nuanced. So I don't think that this stat has anything to do with Jared Goff.
And by the way, John Elway, just to re-mention, because I did mention this, he got back to 1-1, so he is part of the exception. But with the quarterbacks listed, I'm with you. Burrow and Hurts are the two most likely guys to get back, and I think we'll eventually win one. And a good friend of the show, employee at Woodward Sports, who does a great job, Booner, I think nailed it. He said the quarterbacks that are the ones who can, quote, win you a game are the ones that get back, not the quarterbacks who you can just win with. And that's also in the data, because a lot of these guys that did not get back are quarterbacks I think you would classify as you can win with. Quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, different, but Patrick went back and he won multiple. But the elite guys, I think Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow are in that class, and I have more faith that not those guys can get back. But part of it is also this. When Jalen Hurts got to one last year and Joe Burrow got to one, a part of it is they're on rookie deals, and a lot of players they're alongside are on rookie deals. What happens, and this is why I love the NFL because of the parity, contracts are going to end up kind of figure themselves out. You can't pay everybody. And I think the Bengals are kind of running into this issue now, and they're starting to with Jamar, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Like when they all made it, they were all on rookie deals essentially. I think besides Tyler Boyd, if I'm not mistaken. So you look at Jalen Hurts, rookie deal, Devontae Smith, rookie deal. Like a lot of what they had, and as much as they had defensively, they can't afford these guys down the line. So the best team that Jalen Hurts was ever going to have would be last year. As he gets paid, the team won't quite be the same. So the odds go down, but I think the talent of Jalen Hurts, the talent of Joe Burrow, I think will override that and get them back, no matter the scenario. But Lucas, I want to get to you on this too. What does this mean for Jared? And out of the list of quarterbacks, would you agree that Hurts and Burrow are probably the more likely options to get back eventually?
100%. And to what you and Booner both said, it's because they're the most talented quarterbacks out of that group, and they can make plays even if they don't have the talent around them. Now, I still think Jared Goff has the potential to return to a Super Bowl, just because when he went to LA, he had that year where then Todd Gurley started falling off, and that offense kind of had to be rebuilt in the way that it played, and they were like, yeah, Jared, we can't win with you anymore. So he went to a new situation in Detroit where, again, he's surrounded by talent with a lot of rookie contracts, so it's almost like copy and print his situation that he had in LA. So I think he could very easily do it in Detroit, but like you said, if you're going to say Hurts or Burrow's not going to make it there before him, I disagree.
And also, I just want to clarify this because I want to get to the poll. I put a poll up in the on WoodwardSports.com, the chat thread. You can check that out. Can Jared Goff eventually get back to a Super Bowl? 81% of Lions fans, predictably, say yes, he will beat the odds. 82%. 18% say no, he will not. And I want to say this. To say Jared Goff will never get back is ridiculous. I don't think that's fair to Jared, because what we've seen from Jared, and people act like he's 35 years old, he's only 28.
Yeah.
Like he's not old at all. Like, especially playing quarterback, he can play for another 10 years. But for Jared Goff, you've seen him get better these last couple of years, now with Ben Johnson. I think if he's in the right situation, I think it's possible for Jared Goff. Now, what needs to happen for Jared, for that to happen, in my opinion, you got to take a discount. Because if Jared Goff starts getting paid near what Jalen Hurts is getting paid, now we have some problems, because at least in my opinion, I won't speak for anybody else on the show, I'll allow you guys to have your own opinion. If you're paying Goff the same amount or near the same amount as you're paying some of these top tier guys, then it gets a little harder, because Jared Goff, sorry, isn't Joe Burrow. I don't know if that's a surprise to any of you guys. He isn't. And if you're paying him close to what those guys are getting paid, you can't keep everybody. I think for Jared Goff, you want all the help you can get. And that's not even a bad thing. A lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, you need a lot of help. Not everybody can be Patrick Mahomes and take Travis Kelce offensively and a pretty good offensive line to the Super Bowl. Like, you just need a lot of weapons. You need a good defense. A lot of quarterbacks just need that. So for Goff, I think that's the biggest thing, is I think he can get back, but getting paid $45 million, $50 million, whatever he's asking for, I don't know. This isn't a fact. I'm just assuming he will. That's where we run into some problems, Sam, because if you're paying him that much, good luck.
Well, that's the question. That's why I don't know if I'll ever get to a point where I, as a Lions fan, would be comfortable with paying Jared Goff $45 million a year, hell, even $50 million a year, because the reality is if Daniel Jones gets $40 million,
$50 million?
Thank you, Smokey. Jared Goff should absolutely, and I wouldn't even begrudge him, I wouldn't blame him at all for asking for a big deal. But at the very, very least, what Jared Goff needs to do, and I think that he can, is validate what he did last year. You mentioned that Jared Goff is improved and has improved overall as a quarterback even since his days in Los Angeles. I agree 100%. I think last season was without a doubt the best season he's ever had individually as a quarterback, given the circumstances that he's had to work with, given the fact that he is responsible for, one of the people most responsible for building up the Detroit Lions offense along with Ben Johnson and the likes from pretty bad before he got there, and even the first half of his first season in Detroit to elite by the numbers. So I think that Jared Goff, if they keep building this roster right, which Brad Holmes has shown an amazing propensity to do, both in the draft and even in this offseason with what he did with the secondary, I don't necessarily... Jared Goff can be exactly who he is right now, even in the next couple of years when you don't necessarily have to pay him, although you might want to extend him at the end of this year or in the middle of this year. If that can happen, he could get back in the next year or two. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but it really isn't.
No, in the NFC, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think Jared Goff is the second best quarterback in the NFC.
I agree.
So if you're talking about him where he ranks, it speaks more to the NFC with quarterback competition. Now, if he's in the AFC, it's a different question. And that's not even people would assume you guys are hating on Goff. It's just being realistic. Like if he's in the NFC, or excuse me, the AFC, it's a much different equation we're talking about. It's Jared Goff being the second best to now damn near at the bottom of a top 10 list in the AFC. So for Jared Goff, again, to just kind of recap, I think he can get back. I do. The biggest question, though, and I see people talking about it, well, Joe Burrow has more help. Well, Joe Burrow's also on a rookie contract. So let's just act like that.
Patrick Mahomes 3 times, including in the playoffs.
Yes. Don't worry. Talent-wise, I think he's better. But if we're just talking about the help around Joe Burrow, he's on a rookie deal. So you have all the talent in the world. Jared Goff, unfortunately, is not a rookie.
He's not.
He's not on a rookie deal. He's 28 years old. When the Rams got to the Super Bowl, he was on a rookie contract.
He was on a rookie contract.
So, and again, I'm not going to pull the whole 12% thing like Easy does, but there is some truth to that. Once you pay quarterbacks, talent around them, you can't keep. And for certain guys, if you're not confident a quarterback can overcome all these things, then you have some real problems. I think Jared Goff is good enough to get there. I think he's good enough to win playoff games in the NFC. I think he's good enough to get to an NFC title game. And by default, I think if you're going to get to an NFC title game, you're a contender. And I think they can get to a Super Bowl eventually. But I think you nailed it with Brad Holmes. The reason why I have so much confidence in what the Lions are doing, yes, Jared Goff is fine. He's great. Brad Holmes and how he constructs a roster is impressive. How he utilizes money, how he utilizes assets, how patient he is. He always, everything is very timely with Brad Holmes, and it seems like the guy just does not miss. Like he just doesn't. And if he does, it's one pick in the last 3 years. Like okay, fair, but you can't hit on every single pick. So Brad Holmes is a big part of that too. I think he's going to continue to build this roster up. It's unfortunate that J-Mo's not here the first 6 weeks, but if J-Mo's healthy, Jared Goff has everything to succeed. I don't know about winning a Super Bowl, but in the future, if Aiden's in his prime and these guys are taking off more and more, Jared Goff's got a damn good team. And the pressure increases on him to succeed, not because you have Hendon Hooker sitting right behind him.
Of course. And I'm glad you mentioned J-Mo because I think this is interesting and I love to bring it up from time to time. Even if Jameson Williams, if that pick didn't exist and Jameson Williams is on some other team, even without him, Brad Holmes nailed his first 2 drafts and got way more than enough starters than you would even expect from any GM to get, to the point where they're really building up a roster to where I think by 2024 going into next season, you might look at this Detroit Lions roster, and I get it, by then you'll probably have lost Ben Johnson as a coordinator. He would have probably taken a head coaching job. But in 2024...
No, God, please, no! No!
You know, JB, I would, or Michael Scott, I would love to believe that, but I think Ben Johnson is just going to be so coveted, and he's going to deserve a shot. I think by 2024... you're going to look at this Lions roster, especially if guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell and Sam Laporta hit. You're going to look at this Detroit Lions roster as something that is as good, or at least a facsimile approximation of what Jared Goff was working with in Los Angeles in 2018. That is how good Brad Holmes has been through the draft. That is how impactful I think the secondary will improve over this next year just for what he's done in free agency. And at that point, I mean, Jared Goff, he's going to have something similar to what he worked with in Los Angeles, in my opinion, and he's going to be a better quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think we can all safely say that Brad Holmes has made some big boy moves.
Big boy moves.
And I'll tell you about our friends over at Big Boy that can help you out as well. Strawberry Fest is officially back. Try classic breakfast items like some strawberry hotcakes or mouth-watering red velvet waffles. But if you're not feeling breakfast, try the strawberry bacon chicken wrap or cool off with their refreshing summer splash salad. Don't forget to grab dessert as well. Their very delicious classic strawberry pie, deep fried vanilla Oreos, and much more. Stick around. We're going to talk about the Lions wide receiver core and where they ranked according to PFF.
How would you like to win not one, but 2 vehicles of your choice? One for you and one for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Get to Lady Jane's today for an award-winning haircut and automatically enter for your chance to win. Courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. Lady Jane's, open 7 days a week, walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome. We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side. Woodward Sports.
We're back. Thanks for sticking with us. Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Almost into the second hour of the show. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, Alex, and Lucas in the TD booth. And I saw this list yesterday, and I didn't know how to feel about it. So I sat down, I read it, I digested it, and now I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. PFF came out with a wide receiver ranking for the corp, the receiving corps and rankings throughout the NFL. And I'm going to go through some of these teams, and we'll get to the Lions. But first, I just want to give some context to where they have some teams. So obviously, number one, the Cincinnati Bengals, speaking of Joe Burrow. I think we could agree there. I think as a wide receiver core, they're the best in the league on paper. Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
Okay, number two, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's fair. No problems yet.
No problems.
Okay, Miami Dolphins at 3, San Francisco 49ers at 4, 5, Seattle, 6, Dallas, 7, Minnesota. Now, here's the problem. Minnesota at 7, and just stay with me here because this will make sense when I get to it. Minnesota's at 7, and I'll just give you an idea who's behind them. Buffalo at 9, Tampa Bay at 10, Kansas City obviously at 11, which, you know, it is what it is.
They're counting tight ends.
Yeah, which if they are, then makes sense. Los Angeles Chargers at 12. Now, mind you, do you hear what I just said? The Los Angeles Chargers are at 12. The Minnesota Vikings are at 7. Okay, so stay with me here. I know this doesn't make any sense, but it's according to PFF. And PFF, as much as I like utilizing it at times, it's not something I often depend on all the time because of stuff like this. And I want to read the Minnesota Vikings, the reasoning why they put the Vikings at 7. They said, thank Justin Jefferson for the Vikings ranking in the top 10. Outside of Jefferson, Minnesota has TJ Hockenson at tight end, a viable option for him, but then it's KJ Osborne, Jalen Reagor, and rookie Jordan Addison, okay? And again, I like Jordan Addison. KJ Osborne, solid. TJ is TJ. But again, 7? Better than the Los Angeles Chargers, and you'll see where they have the Lions ranked in a second. We'll get down. So 12, Los Angeles Chargers, 13, the Chicago Bears, okay? Chase Claypool last season did almost as much as I did for the Bears with their wide receiver core. He wasn't very productive, but regardless, they're at 13. Los Angeles Rams at 14. Ravens at 15. 16, the Jaguars. 17, Broncos. And then it gets down, and then you get into the 20s, and the Lions come in at 23. 23. And I'll read their description for why they have the Lions at 23. They said, Amon-Ra St. Brown took a step into the elite category. Interesting. I agree with that, actually. But 23 and he's elite. Earning a 90.4 receiving grade last season. Detroit moved on from TJ Hockenson via trade in the middle of last year, but they have Marvin Jones Jr., Josh Reynolds, and added rookie Sam Laporta, who is sure to have a decent part of their passing game. Do you notice they didn't even mention Jameson Williams in here? Not even one mention of Jameson Williams. And again, I don't know if it's because he's suspended or they just forgot he's on the Lions. But if Jameson Williams is healthy, there's no way in hell they're 23rd in the NFL on paper. Because if you're telling me that Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, these guys can elevate their wide receiver cores into top 10, top 12, you can't tell me the Lions are 23rd in the NFL with their wide receiver core. And I'll tell you who's behind them. Okay, Atlanta Falcons are 24, which, at this point, I guess, I think in a couple years they'll be even higher than that with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, now Bijan playing receiver at times. 25, the New York Giants. 26, the Colts. 27, the Packers. 28, the Cardinals. 29, the Patriots. 30, Tennessee Titans. 31, Carolina. 32, Houston Texans. So that's who's behind the Detroit Lions. But Sam, when you first hear that the Lions are ranked 23rd according to PFF, and they don't even mention Jameson Williams, and you have teams like Chicago top 15, you have Minnesota 7th. What do you make of it?
So when I first saw this list and when I first saw the ranking, obviously I had the same reaction as you. 23 does sound a little bit crazy, especially given the fact that I think we both agree, and pretty much universally around Detroit, that Amon-Ra St. Brown is a star. We don't have to worry about him for the next almost approaching a decade. I think that he is going to be one of the best Detroit Lions wide receivers of all time when it's all said and done. And that's all well and good. I think that's 100% agreement amongst Detroit right now. And then you look, they mentioned Marvin Jones, who is a solid offseason pickup, although not in his prime. They mentioned Josh Reynolds, who is another solid receiver, but nothing really to write home about, although Jared Goff obviously likes him. They mentioned Sam Laporta, who is their rookie tight end, who the Lions obviously expect big things from, which is fair. That's why you draft a tight end that high, especially when they're going to need him to be tight end number 1. But no mention whatsoever of Jameson Williams. Great minds think alike, Jeff, because that just it really stood out when I read that article. But what also stands out to me is that if they're just disregarding Jameson Williams, 23 is not really that egregious. And Jameson Williams, despite what we all think about him, despite his enormous potential, despite him as a prospect, despite what he did at Alabama in his 1 year as a starter, in which he was one of the best and most dynamic college football players I have ever seen. He was that good. I thought the Lions were very, very fortunate to be able to draft him, and the only reason they were able to do that is because Brad Holmes traded up, and Jameson Williams had an ACL injury in the college football playoffs, so you pretty much knew that he was going to miss the majority of his first season. Despite all of that, Jameson Williams hasn't really shown a whole lot on the field. And even no matter how stupid you think the suspension is, and as more details come out, it appears to be an even more egregious suspension than we even thought before. Jameson Williams is going to spend pretty much his first 23 games as an NFL player basically doing a whole lot of nothing, having one reception. I get it was for a touchdown, but people act like he only played a game or two. He played 6 games and only had 1 reception, and then he had a carry. He only touched the ball twice. So does PFF just completely disregard Jameson Williams? Is Jameson Williams even thought about on a national level, or is he an afterthought at this point?
Well, the problem I have is if you're going to go that route and you're not going to include Jameson Williams or Jahmyr Gibbs, and shout out to the Woodward Sports beat writer for the Detroit Lions, Matt Broder, my guy. He just posted an article about this whole topic. It's in the chat. You can check that out and read it. And he had some interesting things to say in this article as well. But if you're not going to mention Jameson Williams, and why mention Jordan Addison for the Vikings? He hasn't played. And technically, JMO has 1 more reception than he does in the NFL, and he's still not mentioned. Jordan Addison is mentioned. And they didn't even mention Jahmyr Gibbs, who we expect to play a lot in the slot, at wide receiver. They've been moving him around all over the place at minicamp and OTAs. That's my problem, is the inconsistencies. What are we doing? If you're not going to mention JMO, who's an NFL player, and yes, he was suspended, he was hurt last season, but did the guy get any slower? Like, does he suck now? I mean, he still has the same talent he had when he came out. He just hasn't been available. But Jordan Addison hasn't even touched an NFL field yet, and he's mentioned in the Vikings rankings, and they're ranked at 7.
Come on, bro. What are we doing?
That's the problem I have, Sam, is if they're going to go that route, then why include Jordan Addison, who hasn't even played yet?
Because Jordan Addison doesn't have the same amount of career receptions as gambling suspensions. I guess Jordan Addison has 0, but Jameson Williams, he played in 6 games. Let's not act like he didn't play at all. And obviously the Lions were, I would say, keeping it safe with Jameson Williams. They didn't want him to get re-injured, and Jameson Williams did make a big touchdown catch, which was called back, and I didn't mention the carry that he had for 41 yards, and he did beat a defensive back deep, I believe, in the Jets game, and Jared Goff underthrew him. You obviously see that Jameson Williams has a ton of talent. But Jordan Addison, he hasn't suffered an injury. He hasn't had a chance to be on the field. With Jamison Williams, you've at least seen when he was on the field this year with the Detroit Lions, he was an afterthought. In a lot of ways, he was a decoy. That's the reality of the situation. Jamison Williams was brought here to catch the football, and I still believe when he comes back, he will be great because he better be. But he didn't do anything his rookie year. I'm sorry. A lot of people aren't going to like that, but he didn't do a damn thing. I don't care about every time he touched the ball, it went for 40 yards. All 2 of them, 1 reception. That's not good enough. Do I love his talent? Yes. Does he have a resume in the NFL? Abso-freaking-lutely not, and you cannot deny that.
Well, I think saying that he did absolutely nothing is a stretch. I think when he came back, his chemistry with Jared Goff clearly wasn't there, and his strengths, which is stretching the field, Jared, they couldn't connect initially. But to say he did absolutely nothing in the limited times he touched the ball, they were all explosive plays. So imagine an offseason where those 2 guys can work together and J-Mo can get implemented into the offense. You'd hope those explosive plays would become more consistent. At least he showed something. To say he did nothing, I think, is a stretch.
Well, and for the record, before anybody comes at me with a gotcha when Jamison Williams ultimately comes back and is a star, I believe that it's going to happen. My point is that it hasn't happened yet, and the fact that PFF isn't even acknowledging Jamison Williams' existence on the Lions wide receiving core, yeah, it's egregious, but at the same time, why would they? Jamison Williams is going to spend his first 23 games as an NFL player with 1 reception. That is just the reality.
Well, we technically, at least I can speak for myself. I didn't expect J-Mo to play really at all last year.
That's fine.
So, when you say in 2 years, the suspension I understand, but Calvin Ridley was suspended last season. He's mentioned in the PFF list, but he also has a track record in the NFL.
1,000-yard
so
season.
That's fair. But the point is, for J-Mo, no, I don't think anybody expected him to come in his rookie year off an ACL injury and just explode onto the NFL scene. At least I didn't think so, especially when the Lions at that time were winning games. So there's more pressure on them to keep that thing going, and then you implement J-Mo into the offense. Yeah, they targeted him. It didn't work out initially, but still, Sam, in the limited sample size, he had the football. When the football was in his hands, it was huge plays, explosive plays. And imagine if that was more on a consistent basis. And that was with Jared and J-Mo with literally no chemistry. Little to no chemistry. And now they have an offseason. So we'll see this upcoming season. I think this PFF list is blasphemous to have the Lions at 23rd with no mention of J-Mo or Jahmyr Gibbs. But they mentioned Sam Laporta. It doesn't make any sense. And you can argue that without J-Mo this season, the first 6 games, I am a little concerned. Absolutely. I want to see what happens with Reynolds, Marvin Jones, those guys stepping up, the rookies as well. But when this receiving core is healthy, you ain't telling me they're 23rd in the NFL.
And I agree
That's
with
ridiculous.
you. I agree with you 100%. I think they're going to be, I don't know, at best top half in the NFL, especially if Jamison Williams actually reaches his potential. If he becomes what we all think that he can be, then to me, his ceiling is absolutely limitless. I expect him to be the type of wide receiver that can put up consistent seasons like Jalen Waddle did last year, just a yak king, because Jamison Williams, he's not just some speed guy. He was a very polished and refined receiver at Alabama, and I would like to see him run the whole route tree, not just run go routes like he did for most of last season. So I think Jamison Williams will be great, and when he is great, we will be talking about this Detroit Lions receiving core as having a 1-2 punch in Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown that can eventually rival any 1-2 punch in the NFL. But the time is not right now. And all I'm saying is the fact that PFF didn't even acknowledge him, I want to play this whole they don't respect the Lions thing, but can you respect 1 career NFL catch and a gambling suspension, which is egregious, by the way? I know a lot of you are going to come at me, which is egregious, but it is happening, and he is going to miss the first 6 games.
Yeah, that is a fact. Unfortunately, he's going to, but I think when he gets back, maybe a little rust, but it should be full go for JMO. I know he'll be eased in, but he has now the offseason to work. He's healthy right now, so I don't expect these conversations about JMO and the question marks we have to continue a year from now. I just don't. But I'll tell you what, we'll go to break. When we get back, I want to continue this conversation and get JB and Lucas's thoughts on it. But before we do that, can you tell us about our friends over at Randy Wise?
Absolutely, I can. What could be better than watching celebrities like Braylon Edwards and Darren McCarty play golf? Playing golf yourself and treated like a celebrity, that's what. Stop in any Randy Wise dealership for your chance to play golf like a celebrity. VIP transportation, free golf to one of Michigan's best tracks, and a tasty steak after that, compliments of Fairway Packing Company. Make the wise decision and get to Randy Wise today for your chance to win.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
Thank you for sticking with us. The Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network, and it's about to be the second hour of the show. It's Tuesday. You could be anywhere, but you chose to be with us, so we appreciate you for that. Jeff Iafrate, your host, Sam Flannel, my partner in crime, in the audio booth, JB per usual, and Lucas Klotz in the TD booth. And we just finished up talking about, at least me and Sam did, the wide receiver core for the Lions and where they were ranked according to PFF. And again, you can go check out an article explaining all this, breaking it down by Matt Broder, one of our many talented writers for Woodward Sports. But guys, I didn't get to you two on this, and I'll start with you, Lucas. You see this list, the Lions ranked 23rd. Your thoughts on that? The Minnesota Vikings at 7. The Bears, I believe, I want to double check this just so I get this right for you. The Bears are at 13.
Oh my God.
Your thoughts on it? No mention of J-Mo and no mention of Jahmyr Gibbs.
If you're going to say the Chicago Bears have the 13th ranked wide receiving core, I'm trying to piece it together because Chase Claypool's production was under Marvin Jones' production just by itself. So then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Moore. I'm taking Amon-Ra St. Brown every day of the week. And then if you're going to leave off Jameson Williams, okay, that's fine. But if we're going to act like Darnell Mooney makes this team 10 spots better of a receiving core, you are smoking fucking crack. There's no way. And the Vikings I can understand because they're carried by Justin Jefferson, who's arguably the #1 receiver in the league. But KJ Osborne, solid fringe 3 #2 guy. And just so you were saying, Jordan Addison. What if he gets hurt, doesn't play this year? You're going to say this is the 7th best wide receiving core with Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball? There's no way. If Jameson Williams comes back, plays how we all expect him to, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you said they put Laporte on the list for whatever reason, doesn't really make sense, but they're going to throw him on there. This is a top 10 receiving core and playing at their best with Laporta, with J-Mo, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and if you want to throw in Gibbs too, this is a top 5, just overall group when healthy at their peak. I'm not saying right now, but I'm saying at their peak. They're so diverse. There's so many things that they can do that you're going to say the Bears are really that much better. It doesn't make sense to me. None at all.
In PFF, let me talk to you for a second, because Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can make an argument for Justin Jefferson, and then you can make an argument for guys like Cooper Kupp, where the wide receiver core around them isn't that good or is unproven, but those guys are so good that it puts them into top 10, top 15 conversations. What the hell is Amon-Ra St. Brown? Like, is this guy not elite? Am I the only one who has two eyes?
It's just because when you look at...
He's not Justin Jefferson, but Lucas, if he's that dude, which he's shown reception-wise and production-wise over the last 2 seasons, he should at least elevate this wide receiver core, even if they don't mention Jameson Williams, to at least in the teens.
That's
ridiculous.
Exactly what I'm saying, because everybody shoves Justin Jefferson's meat down their throat, as they should, because this dude's a fucking animal. But this man, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Justin Jefferson, their first 2 seasons, have the exact same amount of receptions. Now, Amon-Ra isn't as talented as the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, you name it. But this man, when they start, it's like the middle of the 3rd quarter, we're a little tired. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still going 100%, running the routes just as he should, and he's just, honestly, one of the most efficient receivers in the league. So if you take that, and you're going to say, yeah, we see it, we really don't care, we're still going to put you at 23, I just think it's pure ignorance at that point.
Sam, you had something to say on this? Do you disagree?
See, I don't think the Detroit Lions can ever have a wide receiver core, at least as presently constructed, even unless Jameson Williams becomes Tyreek Hill, that can be top 5 in the NFL. To me, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he is elite. He is at the bottom, to me, of the top 10 of the NFL in terms of wide receivers. But he's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Jamar Chase. He's not Cooper Kupp. He's not Devontae Adams. He's not Tyreek Hill. He's not Stephon Diggs. He's not in that class where he can pretty much carry a wide receiver core by himself, which I'm not saying Amon-Ra St. Brown is doing right now, but according to PFF, which completely leaves out Jamison Williams, he kind of is if the second best pass catcher they are mentioning is old Marvin Jones. So I don't want to get a little bit too carried away when it comes to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love him. I think I said earlier on that he's going to be one of the best wide receivers in Detroit Lions history when it's all said and done. It wouldn't shock me if he has a legacy that usurps Herman Moore. Yes, I did say that, so I'm not an Amon-Ra St. Brown hater, but let's 23, if you're not mentioning Jamison Williams, that's not necessarily that egregious, but once Jamison Williams comes back, I think their ranking, at least going into next year, is going to skyrocket.
Yeah, and JB, your thoughts on it too. Lions ranked 23rd according to PFF, and no mention of JMO. Too high, too low. Or was PFF just a bunch of idiots? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I will agree with you on that. PFF seems to be a bunch of idiots right now, but I honestly think people at PFF are split down the middle. You got half of them thinking that the Lions are on the rise right now, and they see that, and they will put respect on the Lions, while the other half are just waiting for them to show consistency, and then they'll finally put us on the map. But to give you guys a little bit more context on how they ranked all these teams, I'm reading this from their rankings right here. The titles, words, meaning is not just a wide receiver group. We throw in tight ends and even running backs if they possibly affect the passing game. And as Lucas is
this makes even less sense now.
See,
because
exactly.
David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Exactly. You didn't mention either one of those two, and somehow, some way, you still dropped them to 23. If you factor them both in there, and the simple fact that J-Mo is still around and will be around, maybe they forgot he was on the roster somehow, some way, this is easily still a top 10, top 13 team on this list. I don't know why we were dropped down so low at 23. You got to give us some respect here.
And Herb Nash says, we'll take 23. Go ahead and underestimate us. Let's see. The next guy who I wanted to read their comment, I thought it was interesting. Basically saying, oh, here we go. Ransom, PFF is disrespecting the wide receivers and Ben Johnson with that ranking. King Tommy says, Lucas said top 5 if you take the whole group, including Laporta and Gibbs, which is, I think... if
at their peak, like with J-Mo playing well, there's not as a complete offense outside of there besides maybe like Philly and 49ers. Like even the Cowboys, you have CeeDee Lamb, solid, but I'm still taking him on over him. They signed Brandon Cooks. I'm taking J-Mo over Brandon Cooks every day of the week. There's not many out there.
And I can't remember who asked it, and my apologies for not mentioning it either. But basically the question was, if you think the Lions wide receiver core should be in the teens, what teams should they pass? And I'll go through ahead of the teams
read through them.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead of the teams that are in front of them. So they're at 23. And you guys, I'm going to read teams off in front of them, and you say either the team is better or the Lions. Just say that, okay? We'll go 22, Cleveland Browns. Sam, we'll start with you.
I'm going to say that it's a toss-up. I mean, they have Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I like both of their talents, but they haven't really peaked in their production yet. But they also mentioned on that team David Njoku. I have a personal vendetta with David Njoku because everybody talks about how he's this great up-and-coming talented tight end. He has only had 600 receiving yards or more in a season 2 times out of 6. That's facts. So
I thought you were about to gas David Njoku up,
Hell
and I
no.
was, thank you.
David Njoku is a media creation. That's all he is. He looks like Tarzan, and for a lot of his career has played like Jane. May I repeat, in 6 NFL seasons, he has had 600 receiving yards or more twice. But yet I still hear about him every single year. So I guess after that spiel, I will probably say the Lions by a smidge over Cleveland.
JB, Cleveland or Detroit, better wide receiver core.
Oh, Detroit, easily. As Flannel said, I have a vendetta against David Njoku as well, too.
Let's go.
From fantasy football, though. So I'm still hurt by that. But, yeah, it's the Lions over the Browns.
I'm going to toss up because the Browns have a couple of guys who I really like, but just as an overall talent, like you have Amari Cooper, one of those guys who's a lot like Amon-Ra. He's very underrated, very efficient. But I'm still going to take the Lions because then you go into the backfield and you have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery or Nick Chubb. And that's what settles it for me. You have Laporta and Njoku. I take Laporta every day of the week for the same reason these guys are. I don't care if I haven't watched Laporta play. I've seen enough of Njoku. And then, like I said, the receiver core is a draw. I think even like guys like Cedric Tillman, who they just drafted, the Browns receiving core is very slept on, but I'm still taking the Lions.
Yeah, they got Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore. I mean, they got dudes, man. And if I'm saying a healthy Detroit Lions wide receiver core, I would take them over the Cleveland Browns. With J-Mo, with Gibbs, with Laporta, I think potential-wise, those guys are far better. Now we get to 21, New Orleans Saints. Now it gets interesting. I mean, Michael Thomas has not been healthy in a while. So there's that. But Michael Thomas, when he's healthy, Chris Olave, what are we thinking here, Sam?
This is all a Michael Thomas question. Chris Olave, we all know, is a stud. I don't think he's as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he could be as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have a lot of hope for him in the future, and he showed a lot in his rookie season, 1,000. I'm getting to that, Jeff. I want to read this crazy Michael Thomas stat just before I answer this question.
Okay.
In 2019, Michael Thomas broke the single-season record for receptions in a season with 149. He had 149 receptions for 1,725 yards. In the 3 seasons since, one of the seasons he didn't play, 56 catches for 609 yards and 3 touchdowns combined. At this point, I don't think I can trust Michael Thomas that he's ever going to regain that form. And the New Orleans Saints wide receiver core is Chris Olave right now, Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield, and not a whole lot else impresses me out of New Orleans, so give me the Lions.
JB, New Orleans Saints, Detroit Lions, who are you taking? What wide receiver core would you prefer? Because now we're at 21.
I still got to go with the Lions on this one. As Flannel said, Chris Olave is proven. It's Michael Thomas that you have to worry about. He only played 3 games, missed the majority of the season due to injuries. Yeah, I put quotations around that as well, too. So, yeah, give me the Lions on this easily.
Lucas?
I'm going Lions, too, and I think the biggest thing to factor in here, as we touched on earlier, is Ben Johnson compared to the just whole Dennis Allen play calling, which I don't trust. They have a lot of talent, but if you truly think about it, Michael Thomas, like Flannel said, was going off. But when have you seen a receiver have that much production, miss that much time, and come back and be really anything? And it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think if Michael Thomas was healthy, I would say the Saints, because I think Michael Thomas, with what he showed when he was healthy, he's one of the best. But he hasn't been healthy, so there's that to it. And Chris Olave, the only difference between Chris Olave and Jameson Williams is one of them played last season. Like J-Mo, I think, is more talented, but he didn't get to play. So there is that unproven factor. I'm going to go Lions because, again, I can depend on Amon-Ra St. Brown more often. I think J-Mo eventually will be a better wide receiver than Chris Olave. So, again, if we're just going off what we think, I think the Detroit Lions wide receiver core, when healthy, if you get Jameer in the slot as well, Sam Laporta, those guys, if we're factoring in tight ends as well.
Filthy.
Give me the Detroit Lions. So we're getting to 20. New York Jets. What do you think? New York Jets, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, McCole Hardman, Corey Davis, Randall Cobb.
You know, I'm going to go...
Hey, LCN native, Tyler Conklin, shout out to him.
I'm going to go with the Lions on this one. And this, obviously, when I'm taking the Lions, I'm assuming, unlike PFF, that Jameson Williams is going to be a big part of this offense. So the New York Jets, they have Garrett Wilson, who's obviously a stud, offensive rookie of the year, trending to becoming one of the best wide receivers in the league moving forward. But after that, you've got a lot of fairly solid players like McCole Hardman, Alan Lazard, Corey Davis, C.J. Uzomah, and Tyler Conklin. That's a pretty good tight end duo. But nothing really stands out to me. It's Garrett Wilson and a bunch of pretty good players who do different things. McCole Hardman's obviously a speed guy. Alan Lazard, he was a fairly valuable receiver in Green Bay. He's reunited with Aaron Rodgers. So I am going to go with the Lions, though. Just there's not enough help with Garrett Wilson.
Jack says, Sam has the Jets winning the AFC East. Thought he would have said Jets.
Hey, you know what? It's not anti-Jets as much as I think that Jameson Williams, unlike people calling me a hater, is going to be great when he comes back. But he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah, that is true. We will see. JB, New York Jets, Detroit Lions, which wide receiver core you taking when healthy?
I think I'm sticking with the Lions on this one just because of it's the team and the wide receiver group that I know. Whereas the Jets over here, there's no doubt Garrett Wilson, top dog.
He's a dog.
But everyone else just kind of seems like a mesh of wide receivers put together that you don't know quite yet how they're going to gel and work out together. Alan Lazard and McCole Hardman, they did great for their respective teams, but now you combine Aaron Rodgers with old Randall Cobb and Corey Davis, Denzel Mims. It's like you don't know what you're getting out of this. So I'm going to stick with the wide receiver group that I know. Give me the Lions.
Well, that's fair. Lucas, what do you think?
This isn't even a question. After Garrett Wilson, all these guys are just mid. Like, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, they just went up and joined up with Aaron. They're just trying to get through their final year. Mecole Hardman's fast. Denzel Mims is a bust. I'm trying to think, like, just keep going down the line. It's Garrett Wilson and the rest of them. This is the farthest one, in my opinion.
All right, we'll get to now. This one's tough for me, but I think me and Lucas, we kind of agree because the same point you made. If you're talking about the depth, Jets got a lot of depth, but if you're talking J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'll take those two over Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard. I just would.
Sure. Watch out for CJ Uzomah.
Oh, well, I'll watch out, all right. I think I'm more fearful of Tyler Conklin.
He's better than you think he is. He's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's all
19
right.
Washington Commanders, and yes or no? Lions, Commanders.
I am going to go with the Lions on this one because Terry McLaurin, he's another one. We all know that he's a stud, but then after him, you got Jahan Dotson. He had a good rookie season. He missed some games, but I'm not as high on him as I am Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Jamison Williams, the likes of that. And Curtis Samuel, I always hear about him, and Curtis Samuel has obviously always been one of those guys that's Debo light. One of those guys that carries the ball out of the backfield a lot, makes some plays off the wide receiver position, but he's never really taken that leap into stardom. And last year was actually one of his worst seasons when he plays a full season. So I am going to go with the Lions.
Okay, JB. Washington Commanders, they're ranked 19th. The Lions are ranked 23rd. You think they're better than the Commanders, the wide receiver core for the Lions?
Besides Scary Terry, who else is on this team? Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas.
No, Lions all day. I don't even have to talk about this. Come on. Besides Terry McLaurin, there's no one else on this team that really even matters. So Lions
That's
easily.
fair. Lucas, what do you think?
Listen, I love the Lions. I think they're better right now. But when the Commanders get a quarterback, this wide receiver core is filthy. Terry McLaurin is probably the most underrated receiver in the league, and he's had Carson Wentz, Sam Howell, can't even remember who they had before Carson Wentz off the top of my mind, and Jahan Dotson, again, if he had a legit quarterback as a rookie last year, might have been the best rookie just production-wise, if he had that. And Curtis Samuel, once he gets weapons around him, when they can use how diverse he is, he's going to be a dog. So right now it's the Lions, but I think in a couple of years, if the Commanders get that Caleb Williams, this wide receiver core is going to be filthy.
Yeah, I'm actually very hesitant with this one because Terry McLaurin, I think him and Amon-Ra St. Brown are similar in terms of where they rank in the NFL. I think people would take Terry over Amon-Ra. I would disagree. I'm going to take the guy who is more dependable, but Terry does a lot of different things very well. So he's got that going for him. And then you get to the others. You get to Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, even Logan Thomas, who, it is what it is, but he's more proven, I guess, than Sam Laporta. So
Logan Thomas is kind of nice.
He is nice too. Nice. So if you look at the wide receiver core itself, depth-wise, I think it goes to the Commanders. But again, I think Jamison Williams could be better than Jahan Dotson. But Jahan Dotson is a dog too.
No,
I think this is where I start getting hesitant because even if you go up a little further, I mean, you got Pittsburgh at 18, Denver at 17. I mean, would you guys agree that Pittsburgh is better or the Lions wide receiver core is better?
I don't know. I'm not as high on Deontay Johnson as a lot, so I would actually probably take the Lions, although I think George Pickens is going to take a huge leap this next year. I think Pat Freiermuth is a damn good tight end, but I would still probably take the Lions over the Steelers.
Because the Steelers got dudes too.
But Allen Robinson, they signed Allen Robinson. Is he done? Is he done? That's the big question. If he can give you something, then maybe the Steelers, but he didn't show much in Los Angeles.
Well, Pat Freiermuth had over 700 yards receiving last year.
I like Pat Freiermuth.
He's not no slouch either. You got Pat, you got Deontay, you got George Pickens, and we all agree that George Pickens is going to be a dog too, or he is a dog, and will continue to be a dog. But JB, I mean, we'll go through this quickly because I want you guys to kind of get. We'll go to break.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, let's go to break, and then we get back. I want to go through these in rapid fire, and then I want to get to Aiden Hutchinson next segment and kind of year 2 predictions for Aiden. And I know Sam is going to love this segment very much, but before we do that. Sam, could you tell us about our friends over at Planet Fitness?
Oh, absolutely I can, because Planet Fitness is doing this really cool thing where they're allowing high schoolers ages 14 through 19 in the United States and Canada to work out for free all summer long, and that goes all the way through August 31st. And for everybody else who just wants to find a gym to have a membership at, go to Planet Fitness because they have all the best amenities with membership starting at only $10 a month, or you can upgrade to the Black Card for $24.99 per month. We have access to all Planet Fitnesses across the country. Join today in club or online. Go to planetfitness.com. It's Planet Fitness, where your fitness is essential.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Thanks for sticking with us. Cruising through the second hour right now. Jeff Iafrate, your host. Sam Flannel, my partner in crime. JB in the audio booth. And Lucas and Alex working in the TD booth as usual. And we're going to continue this conversation. We kind of started last segment about where the Lions wide receiver core ranks in the NFL, because it is somewhat of a worry of mine. Without JMO the first 6 weeks, there is a lot of question marks. I mean, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, these are guys that you often find that you can depend on, but can they do it again like they did last season, now without no DJ Chark? I'm curious, but we're talking with healthy Jameson Williams, with Jahmyr Gibbs, with Sam Laporta, alongside Amon-Ra St. Brown. Where do you have this wide receiver core ranked? And we just got done talking about last segment, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I was hesitant to say that the Lions are better because, again, I like the depth and the upside in what the Steelers have, alongside Pat Freiermuth, who, again, 700 yards in 2022, a 78.3 receiving grade according to PFF, whatever that is for you. It's impressive. So the Pittsburgh Steelers... And Lucas, I didn't get to you. JB, did I get you about the Steelers?
No. JB, then me.
Okay, JB, I'll start with you. Pittsburgh Steelers, healthy, both wide receiver cores healthy. Lions or Steelers here?
See, this is where I'm hesitant to put the Lions ahead of the Steelers on this one, just because everything you guys said, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Allen Robinson, I think on a bad day, he could be your wide receiver 3 at the best.
Because in LA, he was wide receiver 2. So now he's on a team where he's going to be their third wide receiver.
I think he still has something left in the tank and something to prove out there on the field. So I think I might have to lean the Steelers on this one just because.
Okay, so we got some pushback now. And this is now at 18. Lucas, they're at 18. What do you think?
This is a lot like the Commanders for me. Right now I'm taking the Lions, but I think maybe in a couple of years. Actually, I don't know. Because I think Deontay Johnson's pretty much at his ceiling. I think he had a one-off season last year, not getting in the end zone. He gets in the end zone, but I'm still going to take Amon or JMO over him. I'm still going to take Amon and JMO over Pickens. But I think Pickens is going to be a dog. And then I definitely like Gibbs and Montgomery over the backfield out of Najee. Jalen Warren, though. You know how I feel about Jalen Warren, Jeff.
Yeah, I know how you feel. I've heard it plenty of times. But we look at the wide receivers for the Steelers, compare them to the wide receivers for the Lions. I like the Lions wide receivers more, but the problem I have is when you combine George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, who's a damn good tight end, like they have a lot of weapons for Kenny Pickett this season. So there's hesitancy there. This is probably where I'd pause, because at 18 you have Pittsburgh, 17 you have Denver, Jacksonville at 16, Baltimore at 15, which I disagree with Baltimore. But even the next three, Pittsburgh, Denver, and Jacksonville, I think all have better wide receiver cores than the Lions.
I don't know. I think that I would take the Lions over Denver. And for the record, I think Jerry Jeudy still has a lot of potential, but he hasn't shown a whole lot yet. Maybe Russell Wilson running the Sean Payton system, it'll get the most out of him. I like Cortland Sutton especially. He's shown some things, and he's had a few good years, but he's still relatively unproven to me. So I would take the Detroit Lions.
Really?
Over Denver. Yes.
And again, I get it. That's part of it. Again, I'm not factoring in health because J-Mo hasn't been healthy. So I guess I'm just going off. If both wide receiver cores are healthy, I like Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy.
No way.
Are you?
I like Jerry Judy's probably one of the best route runners in the league, but Cortland Sutton to me is just a Detroit Kenny Galladay. Like, he's a big receiver. He's got a high floor and a low ceiling. And when we talk about the Lions, the high floor, low ceiling guy is probably Amon-Ra St. Brown when you compare it to Jameson Williams. and I'm taking Jamison Williams potential or Jerry Jeudy, and I still like Jerry Jeudy, but you just take it, the group as a whole, wide receiver, tight end, running back, I'm taking Detroit, and then top end talent, it goes to Detroit. Denver might have the higher floor, but Detroit has more top end talent,
Lucas,
in my opinion.
I want to respond to that because you mentioned something about Courtland Sutton. I'm surprised I didn't know this, but when you hear this, you're going to definitely say that the Detroit Lions have the better wide receiver core. Courtland Sutton, believe it or not, has only had 1,000-yard season in his career, and he's been in the NFL for 5 years, and his last 1,000-yard season was in 2019. So a lot of Courtland Sutton is narrative. I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but yeah.
But again, and I think there's certainly an argument there, even though I agree with what you're saying. Upside-wise, J-Mo, I think, upside, I'm super high on J-Mo. I think he could be speed, combination with speed, route running, and just reliability, and the whole package for J-Mo. I think he could be up there for being one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. But Jerry Jeudy, his problem is he hasn't been healthy. When he's healthy, I mean, besides having or allowing Russ to cook, that's like the big thing for Russ. He hasn't really done that in Denver. I think if you gave Jerry Jeudy a really good quarterback, he could be really productive. And Courtland Sutton was productive last year. But again, Courtland Sutton, what has he done in his career? I think Amon-Ra is already off to a better trajectory.
100%.
So I don't know. There's an argument there, but we'll go through a speed round here. Denver at 17, you guys take the Lions. 16, Jacksonville. Yes or no? You taking the Lions or Jags?
I'm taking the Jags.
JB?
I'm taking the Jags.
Lucas?
Taking the Lions as an overall group.
So 2-3 now, or 2-1 for that. I would also take the Jags, I think. Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, who had
I forgot about Zay.
Zay moved your opinion.
Listen, this man bailed me out of so many fantasy weeks this year, you don't even understand. So I'm a Zay Jones supporter. But trying to think, because they got ETN, they got Evan Ingram. I'm going to go with Jags. I take it back.
For those of you who don't know our good friend Lucas Klotz, he's the only person I know that would be like, I don't know about the Jags. Oh, yeah, Zay Jones. Zay Jones is one of the... Zay Jones is good. Zay Jones is a very fine wide receiver, but... I'm just saying, you love those up-and-coming, somewhat mid players.
You know what? It's the emotional attachment Lucas has to mid players. I don't know what it is.
Listen,
I have a
easy with the mid and Zay Jones.
He's not mid. He's above mid. But
it is what it is. Regardless, as you can see, once we get to 16, there's obviously some disagreeing there. So I think the Lions, where they are from 23, they should be in the teens. We agree there, because if you're going to have Baltimore at 15 with just Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, okay, Odell, he's been all right. He hasn't been the same Odell he was in New York. So even if you've taken that entire wide receiver core, Zay Flowers hasn't played yet in the NFL. I don't think they're better than the Lions. And then you get to the Rams, who with just Cooper Kupp, they have this 14. There's a lot of question marks here. The bottom line is the Lions deserve more respect, I think, for what they have in their wide receiver core. Although I'm worried about not having Jameson the first 6 weeks. I think once they're all healthy, a lot of weapons for Jared Goff at his disposal. So excited to see how that all pans out. But when we get back from break, I want to talk about Aiden Hutchinson and what his second year potentially will look like. We'll talk about stat lines, how much better will this defense be for the Lions. We'll get into all of that and much more. But before I do that, I got to tell you about our great friends at Dispo, because guys, let me tell you about our friends at Dispo, because they have a Hazel Park location. They have the Romeo location, which I went to personally. It is beautiful. It looks like a mall for all cannabis lovers. You check it out. They got the best deals. They got the best bud tenders. And you could join us and Dispo, the Dispo family, live at their Hazel Park location on June 23rd for Ermanni and Edwards and the Woodward Heavyweights from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Come prepared as Dispo Dispensary takes your cannabis experience to new heights. No pun intended. Located at 634 West 9 Mile Road in Hazel Park, Michigan. See you there for Ermanni and Edwards with Maz and the Heavyweights June 23rd at Dispo Dispensary, your local cannabis plug.
Big Boy Strawberry Fest has officially arrived, and we're here to show you the very best flavors of the season. Satisfy your sweet tooth with our deep-fried vanilla Oreos, strawberry hot fudge cake, and a slice of our classic strawberry pie. But that's not all. Cool off on a refreshing summer splash salad, or savor the flavors of our chicken Caesar wrap and strawberry bacon chicken wrap. And for breakfast lovers, don't miss out on our strawberry hotcakes or our mouth-watering red velvet waffle. Strawberry Fest is something for everyone. Celebrate the sweet season with us at Big Boy.
You have an opinion? Make sure it's seen and heard. Tweet us, hop on the YouTube chat, slide in the DMS at Woodward Sports on all social media.
Your childhood may be over, but playtime is certainly not. Outdoor Equipment Company is your source for outdoor power equipment, sales, service, and parts. Carrying top brands such as Bad Boy, Ellis, Tractor Still, and more, servicing the Great Lakes region with locations in Metro Detroit and Greater Lansing. For more information, visit them at OutdoorEquipco.com. Outdoor Equipco, your power equipment playground. And we're off and running halfway through the second hour of the Morning Woodward Show. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, Lucas Klotz. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, like the stream, download our podcast. If you're not watching live, because you can still watch it, you can still listen. You can go on any podcast app you listen to, whether it's Apple, Spotify. Check us out, leave a 5-star review. And if you're watching on our website, woodwardsports.com, check out all the latest news, articles, updates, show clips, and merchandise. And like the lovely Motown Monty shirt that JB has on, you can get that at the Woodward Sports store. So go check it out. But I do want to get to this Aiden Hutchinson conversation because, Sam Flannel, you're a Michigan fan, and you're one of the biggest fans of Aiden Hutchinson. You were before the draft. You are after the draft. Did you think he would get 12 sacks his rookie year? If I'm not mistaken. Which he had 9.5 and 3 picks, so yeah. Pretty damn close. I want to talk about his expectations this upcoming season because we know Aiden, he's a workhorse. He's been grinding. We know what is expected of him this season as the second overall pick. You have a much improved secondary. What are your expectations for Aiden Hutchinson, and what type of season does he have to have for you to look back and say that was a success?
All right, so I'm actually answering the same question with that. So Aiden Hutchinson, when you're looking at numbers, I'm just going to go by pure numbers at first. He had 9.5 sacks his rookie season. I expect that to be bumped up to 13.5 this next year.
Ooh.
That is a prediction that me and Spencer Rexter of the Woodward Heavyweights share in common. Last season he had 9 tackles for loss. I expect him to get to 15. The last season, he had 15 quarterback hits. I expect this season for him to at least get 20. And all of that would combine to make a Pro Bowl season for Aiden Hutchinson. And on a wider scale, I expect by the end of this season, there is no doubt in anybody's mind that Aiden Hutchinson is, at worst, just the best defensive player in the NFC North. I mean, when you look at all the defensive players in the NFC North, who's the Packers' best defensive player? Probably Jair Alexander. You could argue Devondre Campbell. Rashawn Gary is up and coming, but he hasn't really hit his ceiling yet, although he did miss a lot of time with injury last year. When you look at the Minnesota Vikings, you look at Danielle Hunter, who is one of the few Minnesota Vikings defensive players that stuck around. He's had 4 double-digit sack seasons, but I think he's on the decline, and Harrison Smith is obviously old. And then you look at the Chicago Bears, you look at their Tremaine Edmonds, who is not a top tier linebacker, but a very, very good linebacker in that second tier below the top end guys like Fred Warner and Bobby Wagner. And then you look at Eddie Jackson, who in reality, Eddie Jackson was more of a one-year wonder than I think anybody would want to admit, because in 2018, he was the best safety in the NFL. He had 6 interceptions and 3 defensive touchdowns. And since then, he's had 6 interceptions total in 4 years. So Aiden Hutchinson, at the very least, is going to show that he is the best defensive player in the NFC North. And by the end of the season, you are going to say without a shadow of a doubt that Aiden Hutchinson, when it comes to NFC edge rushers, there's Nick Bosa, there's Micah Parsons, there's Aiden Hutchinson, even above Hassan Reddick. I think Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a superstar. This is his Pro Bowl year, and then by year 3, you might be talking about him as All-Pro. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be elite this year.
Well, Hassan Reddick, the last 3 seasons, has over almost 40 sacks.
Hassan Reddick is excellent.
So I'm just trying to temper the expectation in terms of where he ranks. And I guess he is a little bit of a different. He's a hybrid linebacker. They line him up at edge. Aiden's just going to be bull rushing. And they actually put Aiden in some pass coverage plays last year. He had 3 picks. So Aiden, what he did his rookie year was tremendous. And he spoke also at OTAs to the media. And I want to read some of his comments and Aaron Glenn's comments before I gave my answer, and we'll go around the room as well. Aiden said, and I quote, "My confidence right now is really through the roof." He says, "Me personally, I feel like I'm on a completely different level, and I mean instinctually, my explosiveness everywhere on the board, I feel like I've taken myself to the next level." And Aaron Glenn also spoke on Aiden Hutchinson and his expectations from him in his sophomore year, and he said, Aaron Glenn, I'll continue to put him in a position to be successful and expect him to take another step as far as being a dominant player, being on the edge in the run and in the passing game, key word in the passing game. So there are no doubt he'll be a better player this second year than he was this year. So my prediction for Aiden, and I agree with you for a lot of what you said. Aiden, I think his second year, you look at what he did his rookie season when everything was flying at him. He didn't have a great secondary. He was doubled almost as much, at least in that tier, as Myles Garrett. Teams knew on a game-to-game basis. What'd you say, Lucas?
Aiden Hutchinson was tied with the most double team rates. I think it was 30% with Myles Garrett. So the most double teamed edge rushers in the NFL were Aiden Hutchinson and Myles Garrett, and Aiden Hutchinson was a fucking rookie.
Think about that for a second. He's a rookie, and he's getting doubled in the same tier as Myles Garrett. And you're telling me now the game slowed down. They got way better in their secondary. It's going to make Aiden and the rest of the defensive line's job a lot easier. And if Houston can become a guy you can use on not just third down, but more downs, and he can become more of a complete defensive end / linebacker, whatever they line up Houston, that's going to help Aiden a lot. And you got Aleem McNeil, who again, is in better shape. I'm hoping for a breakout season for Aleem. He showed things last year. My biggest problem and concern for the Lions, they didn't add to their defensive line with that 6th overall pick. And again, you look at they traded back, they got Jahmyr Gibbs. I was hoping it'd be Jalen Carter. It wasn't, unfortunately. But I don't think it's going to change my opinion of Aiden Hutchinson. I still think this season it's going to be the coming out party if last year wasn't already. He's going to have double-digit sacks. He's going to be in that conversation for one of the best edge rushers in the NFC. And beware, offensive lines lining up against Aiden Hutchinson are going to be in trouble. This guy gets to go against Penei Sewell in practice. Mm-hmm. You talk about iron sharpens iron. You get Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, whoever the hell it is, and then you get to go out there and face offensive lines that are not superior to the Lions. I think it's going to be great for Aiden. I expect a big season out of him, and I think Aaron Glenn, with the talent they've added in the secondary, it's only going to make those guys' jobs a lot easier because now you don't have to get to the quarterback in a couple seconds before the secondary breaks down. You have a secondary that is much more stickier, can stay on receivers, and give Aiden those guys more time to get home. So I'm with you. I think Aiden Hutchinson this season is going to prove a lot of people, at least people that didn't already see him break out his rookie season, he's going to put a lot of eyes on him. And I'm excited to see what Aiden does this season.
Yeah, you mentioned something interesting, that having a secondary that's going to be much better in coverage than last season, that's going to be able to cover wide receivers for longer, will absolutely help guys like Aiden Hutchinson, even James Houston for that regard. But for the purpose of this conversation, it is definitely going to help out Aiden Hutchinson. I don't care if he gets doubled just as much as last year. I don't know if he will, by the way, but even if he does, despite all of that, despite having a fairly mid first 7 games where I was even having some questions about Aiden Hutchinson, even though I was the biggest fan, he still ended up with 9.5 sacks. He still led all rookies in sacks. And one of the reasons for my vast predictions for Aiden Hutchinson is because he's not going to have those rookie growing pains that he had to get out of the way early on into last season, which is normal for rookies. He went through the learning curve, and now you can see that he is a very polished player. And another thing that you saw last year, which I was very happy to see because I knew that he had it, but a lot of people even at this network didn't, I think he has that superstar ceiling. I know when Aiden Hutchinson first came out, there was talk of him being maybe a guy that is going to be a great pro, but not necessarily that superstar. But last year with 9.5 sacks, with 3 interceptions, with his play against the run, you saw his athleticism, you saw his versatility. Why can't he be the next Myles Garrett? Why can't he be the next, approximation of Nick Bosa? Why can't he be the next Watt brother type player? I think he can. Am I crazy?
No, I think with you draft a player number 2 overall, I think you should have those expectations. I'm with you, Sam. The other part of it is, and Myles Garrett, not as much as Nick Bosa, but you need help as well on your defensive line. And with the Lions, there's a lot of unproven guys. And Lee McNeil's proven to some extent, but still a lot more growth for him to do. And I think there is more to him, and he can get much better. Josh Pascal, Levi, who hasn't been healthy, we still don't know exactly how good he is when he's healthy. James Houston, can he be an every down guy, someone you could depend on not only against in passing down situations, but in the run game? There's a lot of question marks. If one of those guys or 1 or 2 of those guys can take that next step and help Aiden, and now you got to look at James Houston, you got to look at Josh Pascal. If there's more help around those guys, around Aiden Hutchinson, that's what he needs. It can't just be just Aiden that can be a guy that can consistently get to the passer, get to the quarterback. It's got to be somebody else in that defensive line that can help him. But even if there isn't, I still think Aiden Hutchinson could be that dude. I just think he needs help. He needs an interior pass rush, and I don't know if they can do it this year. I know Aleem he's more of a run stopper, and that's the thing that scares me. Broderick Martin has upside, but still, he's raw. He still has a lot more room to grow, and he's better against the run. But you need someone that can just swarm double teams, or at least take up attention for opposing offensive lines. I don't know who that's going to be this year besides Aiden, but you'd assume it'd be James Houston.
No, that's a tough one, B, and that leads me to the point of, and I know I'm going to bring this name up, and a lot of people are not going to like it, and they're going to say, let it go, let it go, let it go. But that is why, even to this day, that if I were Brad Holmes, I would have stood pat at number 6 overall and taken Jalen Carter and just rode into the sunset with that. And I get it, Jalen Carter has some concerns, but he was by far the best interior defensive lineman in the draft and the best interior defensive pass rusher in the draft. And I think if he hit his ceiling, that defense could have been just absolutely insane next year, maybe approaching top 5 or top 10 or top 15. And the defensive line was an absolute need for the Detroit Lions. I get it. He's gone. I hope he flames out in Philadelphia, but I see that keep getting brought up. I hear you bringing it up that the interior pass rush might be a little bit of a weakness. That's why I would have still taken Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't cost him. I really don't. But man, I hope he's not the one that got away.
And Eric says in WoodwardSports.com, that's why you go get Chase Young.
I would love to get
Solid
Chase
point.
Young. I would love to get Chase Young.
Solid point. Yeah, Jalen Carter was the guy I advocated for the entire before the draft process, and then of course at the draft, things change. And you know, I got explained to me at multiple different occasions. Well, Jalen Carter is not the best fit for the Lions, and the culture fit. But then I just watched the team that just made the Super Bowl take him. So I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm curious to see. You know, there's a lot of guys, at least on the Lions defensive line, that have upside, but we just have to figure out what they have in these guys. Josh Pascal, if he's healthy for an entire season, I'm excited to see what he brings. There's a lot of guys on the defensive line that are unproven but have upside, so I'm curious. You're going to find out a lot about the guys around Aiden this season, and if they can have breakout seasons, Aiden will even have an even better season because he's going to have help, which is the most important thing. You got to get him help.
You got to get him help. And one thing you mentioned, and this is where I have a little bit of a disconnect with Lions fans, and a lot of you aren't going to like this, but a lot of you don't like a lot of what I have to say. A lot of Lions fans have this just fixation with character guys and stuff like that. And I just don't care. I have never really cared about anything like that. And you mentioned it. You mentioned it before, and I always piggyback this off of Neil Rule, who has a lot of good takes himself, although some bad ones. But this one he is spot on. Why were the Philadelphia Eagles just comfortable with it? The defending NFC champions just saying, hey, we'll take Jalen Carter because of his talent. And their expectation is 100% Super Bowl or bust. And I don't think we can say that about the Lions just yet. Maybe next year, but right now we're talking about a division title. I don't care about character. I care about talent. Can he help you win? And I get it. He's not coming here. He's not coming back. He's gone. He's with the Eagles now. But I hope to God that doesn't haunt the Detroit Lions. I trust Brad Holmes. That's why we gave him the grace. But Jalen Carter better not ball out for the Philadelphia Eagles and Jahmyr Gibbs become a disappointment. That better not happen, or else there'll be some questions.
Well, or else you're probably going to need SMA if you watch Jalen Carter go ball out
SMA
in Philadelphia. Let me tell you about our friends over at SMA. The sports marketing agency helps spread awareness about mental health and substance abuse. Their new podcast, This is the S Word, helps fight the stigma about seeking help. If you or someone you know is struggling, head to thesportsma.com for more information. We'll be right back after the break to discuss some Detroit Pistons draft.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network.
We're back on the Morning Woodward Show, woodwardsports.com. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, Lucas Klotz. Thanks for sticking with us almost to the end of the show here. And I want to get through this topic before we get to mailbag, so get your questions prepared. I had a poll, or I saw a poll rather, and I'm going to get to that later, but also I want to show you the FanDuel favorites for the Detroit Pistons and their draft this Thursday. They pick 5. And Lucas, could you throw up the graphic for me? This is per my good friend Anthony Colombo, or Pistons Talk on Twitter. He does a great job. You can check out this graphic right here, and it kind of just runs through the all the players at 5 and who has the best and worst odds for the top 5. So 5th overall pick odds per FanDuel. Number 1 is Cam Whitmore at plus 115. Number 2 is Jarris Walker at plus 340. Ausar Thompson at plus 380. Amin Thompson at plus 470. And then my guy Taylor Hendricks at plus 1500, which,
what?
Holy hell, that's great odds. I want to go through this list, get your reactions to it, and maybe everyone in the chat, feel free to chime in on whoever you prefer. But Sam, I'll start with you. When you look at this list, Cam Whitmore, Jarris, Ausar, Amin, Taylor Hendricks, is there anybody on this list you dislike and anybody you prefer specifically over the rest?
Well, I prefer Taylor Hendricks over the rest because I think at this point the Detroit Pistons, I think we all agree that they have a solid core. Guys like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, they don't necessarily need that superstar player with a number 5 overall pick. And honestly, in this draft, like a lot of other drafts, I don't know if you're going to get a superstar at 5. And the thing that I like about Taylor Hendricks, unlike any player on this list other than Taylor Hendricks, is that Taylor Hendricks was a 39% three-point shooter in college. Cam Whitmore, 34%. Jarris Walker, 35%. Ausar Thompson, 30% in overtime elite. Amin Thompson, 25% in overtime elite. I want a guy who can be that wing player, that 3-and-D guy on this team that would be a perfect fit. And Taylor Hendricks, he's so polished. His jump shot is so polished. And I just think Cam Whitmore may have the higher upside. Jarris Walker may have a higher upside, but they're both just so raw. They have, and the Thompson twins, I want to stay the hell away from them. I don't think overtime elite really develops good fundamental basketball players. At least when you see some of those shooting percentages, you're just like, Jesus freaking Christ. Can they develop a shot? I get it. They're all wings. Every single one of them are wings. Jarris Walker's a little bit more of a power forward type, but I want someone who can shoot the 3 ball, and that's Taylor Hendricks.
Oh, 100%. And that's what I struggle with because there's a lot of prospects I don't mind at 5. Cam Whitmore, Ausar Thompson, Jarris Walker. I don't think I'd be livid if any of these guys were drafted at 5, but I have my preference, and I've been consistent. And 62% of the poll agree with me. I'm glad you guys have been tuning in and have been doing your research and are also in love with Taylor Hendricks because let me tell you this. When they ask me, Jeff, who do you think the Pistons should draft? I go back to what I'm looking for most at number 5. And you can tell me, well, BPA over fit. Okay, I see the Pistons have 2 franchise guards. I want to continue to build around these guys. And still, Taylor Hendricks is only 19 years old. He's not 22. Like, the dude still has plenty of room to grow. But you know what you can't teach? 6'9" with over a 7-foot wingspan. You can't teach that. And on top of that, with that length and size, he's shooting 40% damn near from the three-point range from at UCF, excuse me. Like, that's like, what are we talking about here? We talk about needs for the Pistons. You need shooting, you need size, you need length, you need wings, and you talk about a better fit next to Jalen Duren. How about a guy that can step back and hit 39% of his threes at the college level? I'll take that every day, twice on Sundays.
You know what the Detroit?
Interesting.
Thank you, MCDC. Do you know what the Detroit Pistons actually need? And a lot of people, when they hear this first, they might cringe a little bit. What they need is for someone to be what Keegan Murray was for the Sacramento Kings last year. And I know that a lot of people, including people at this network, when the Sacramento Kings picked Keegan Murray and gifted us Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey's been a good player, but at the same time, I think gifted is a little bit of a stretch. People at this company just lost their minds like, oh my God, the Kings are such stupid idiots. The Kings are going to king. That's what they always do. But you know what Keegan Murray actually was? Exactly what the Sacramento Kings needed. He was their best three-point shooter, even above Kevin Huerter. Those are just by the numbers. And the thing that Keegan Murray did in college better than almost any other of the top picks was he was a 40% three-point shooter. He was a great scorer, and he was a 6'8" wing. And they already had guys like De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis who were their leaders, who were going to be their stars. And that's what I'm saying with the Detroit Pistons. They already have, if you believe in Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, what you want is somebody who can shoot the ball from the wing position, because Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, as of right now, are not good three-point shooters. I think that maybe Cade Cunningham can develop into one, and Jaden Ivey wasn't actually that bad. He was 34%. But I want somebody who can put the ball in the hoop, especially given the fact that Bojan Bogdanovic, as much as I love him and for what he did last year, he is older. I don't think he's a part of the future plans, and he's a traffic cone on defense. Taylor Hendricks is certainly not that. So I want Taylor Hendricks, at least at some point, to be kind of what Keegan Murray was for the Sacramento Kings. Although I get it, it's not a perfect comparison because they're at different stages of the rebuild, but still.
But here, even if you bring up Keegan Murray, when you talk about his impact with the Kings, and you bring up Taylor Hendricks, his possible impact with the Pistons, Keegan Murray was also a couple years older. Like,
sure.
he spent a couple years at Iowa. Taylor Hendricks is 19 years old. He's a freshman at UCF. And again, you talk about the size he possesses and what he can do, weak side defense, his rim protection, his shot blocking ability. Go watch UCF this year. Watch Taylor Hendricks. Watch his efficiency from three. It's unreal. And that's something you look at, and I'm glad you brought it up. Cade and Ivey, we believe in both those guys. They could both be superstar star guards. So let's start building a roster around those two. How about that? And currently, I get the Amin Thompson, because, by the way, if Amin's there, I'm willing to take Amin too. I think Amin's somebody, because I think he's up in that top tier of players as well. But I don't think he will. I think Houston takes him personally. But Ausar, I don't mind either. But the biggest thing for me is shooting. Shooting. Mixed with size, mixed with versatility, what they can do defensively. All that stuff matters. And I'm getting a wing, a 6'9" wing with over a 7-foot wingspan. He shot almost 40% from three at UCF and can guard multiple positions. Like, yeah, I'll take Taylor Hendricks. I'll take him. So again, there's a couple guys I don't mind, but Taylor Hendricks is the ideal pick for me. And we're gonna do more breakdowns of each of these prospects closer to the draft, because it is only 2 days away.
It's only 2 days away.
And the Pistons, I think, when we talk about all these rumors with prospects, I just hate it, because I just want to get to the draft and see who they take. I do. But again, Taylor Hendricks has been my guy since after the lottery, and I'm sticking with him.
And we're obviously, the caveat behind all of this is the Detroit Pistons have the number 5 overall pick. I don't think at the number 5 overall pick in this draft there is a star available. But Taylor Hendricks is going to be a very good complementary player. And I think to wherever he goes, that team is going to be happy to have drafted him, just because, and I know people accuse me of being simplistic. The modern NBA, you have to be able to shoot the three, and Taylor Hendricks can do that, and also can defend the perimeter. He's 6'9", 7. What more could you want?
Well, let me address this too for people that are, because I've heard this a lot, and this applies to not just the NBA draft, but I feel this way for all sports. I wouldn't take Taylor Hendricks at 5, but I'd take him at 7. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, if you love a player, you take him. You take him. The semantics of where he's taken, I don't think matter. If you trade back to 8, and we'll take Taylor Hendricks, there's a chance Taylor Hendricks can be gone by 8, Sam.
Oh, yeah.
Just like when the Celtics took that chance with Jason Tatum, it worked out for them. He was there at 3. But there also was a situation where he could have went to Philly, and Boston would be sitting there like, damn, we let the guy we wanted get away. Like, there always is a chance these guys can go, especially when you look at the group of players around Taylor Hendricks, Jarris Walker, Cam Whitmore, Ausar Thompson. These guys, they're all kind of relatively in the same group, in my opinion. So if you're Troy Weaver at 5, you get the first option of that group of players. Why trade back and lose the advantage you have? Lose all, the choice you can make. And if Troy likes Taylor Hendricks, you take him at 5, Sam. I don't want to hear, well, I don't like Hendricks at 5, but I like him at 8. It's the stupidest conversation I've ever heard, I swear.
That's what I was hearing yesterday from a couple of people. They're like, yeah, I really like Hendricks, but at 5, I don't know if it's worth it. And he was like, at 7, I might. So I was like, oh, so you'd go back 2 picks and risk Taylor Hendricks being taken, and then now you're sitting at 7 with whoever's sitting there, and it's not going to be any of the guys that were just on this graphic.
No, it's not going to be.
And you lose control of the board, which I wouldn't want that for Brad. I don't want that. If you believe in the person taking the pick, you don't want to lose control of the board, especially when there's a group of prospects all around the same tier of players. It's not as easy. We'll just trade back and get them. There's always going to be teams, especially if you're trading back. Unless you like multiple players, that's fair. But if you like 1 or 2 players more, just take them at 5. for crying out loud.
Well, and
Jesus.
I mean, the reality of the situation is, I know
Diva Jeff.
Diva Jeff. I know knock on wood, but I can almost guarantee that if the Detroit Pistons really fell in love with Taylor Hendricks as a prospect, and he is going to be there at 5, the Rockets pick at number 4, and I expect the Rockets to rock it. If I think at this point that can be named as a verb, because they have a lot of good players and who were all healthy last year, but they were still 22 and 60.
Yeah.
They just have a bad culture and they have no one who can shoot. They're not going to take a guy like Taylor Hendricks. They're probably going to take a Thompson twin. So, but at 7, with there being a log jam of wings, someone might fall in love with Taylor Hendricks and take him at 6, and then he's gone.
Very easy to like.
Take him at 5. If you want him, Detroit Pistons, take him at 5. Stay right there.
And we're going to go to mailbag. Get your questions ready. Me, Sam, JB, and Lucas will answer them. But before we do that, Sam, could you tell us about our friends over at Lady Jane's?
Oh, of course I can. How would you like to win not 1, but 2 vehicles of your choice? 1 for you and 1 for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Get to Lady Jane's today for an award-winning haircut and automatically enter for your chance to win, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick, GMC of Ferndale. You know that's where I get my haircut. I go to any of those wonderful stylists. They always do a great job. They have me looking this good every single day, and I have to look this good sitting next to the wonderful Jeff Iafrate. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
The sports marketing agency would not be who we are without great community partners like Higuera Health and Carol Zaniga.
It's an awesome opportunity to partner with your organization. Higuera Health is a comprehensive behavioral health organization. We serve children through older adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities across Western Wayne counties, and really excited to now be in downriver communities as well. Give us a call at 734-458-4601.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side. Woodward Sports.
We're back, the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, support the stream, or subscribe if you haven't already. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? That's probably my first question. If you're not watching us live, then you can go back and listen via any podcast app you have, Spotify, Apple, it's okay. You can still catch us. Leave a 5-star review. Do me a favor. Do it for Sam and his flannel, please. And if you're watching on Woodward Sports, don't forget, check out the latest news, articles, updates, show clips, and merchandise. But let's get to mailbag, and we can talk more about this. Mailbag, Mike asked this: which college teams do Lucas and JB root for? JB, what college team you root for?
Well, I gotta stay local with this one, so it's mostly all the Michigan teams. So Central, State, U of M, but out of state, I go over at Oregon, Alabama. You know, I'm a big SEC guy, so.
Okay. Lucas, what about you? Don't say Toledo.
I used to be a big Ohio State fan. No way it'd be Toledo. Shout out Deontay Johnson, though. But after the C.J. Stroud era, I cannot stand Ohio State.
Bro.
Both the fans and just the culture around it. I can't stand Ryan Day. I'm taking a leave from Ohio State. Just it's disgusting to watch what's going on there. And what's even more disgusting is how the fans react to everything going around. And they're like, yeah, we're still going to the Natty. Like, no, bro, you're not. Relax. We have Marvin Harrison, who's a fucking demon, going to be the best receiver in the NFL in like 3 years. But that's about it, in my opinion. Like, I think Michigan's going to start running the table.
You know, I am in no way, shape, or form trying to defend Ohio State, but Lucas.
Well, if you want to go at it about C.J. Stroud, we can go.
You know what? I'm not going to go at it about C.J. Stroud. They were a shanked field goal away from getting to play fucking TCU in the national championship game.
What happened the game before that? What situation were they in? They got fucking ran through by Michigan.
I get it.
Justin Fields ain't letting that happen. I'm sorry. And he still had Ryan Day.
I'm just saying that you guys almost won a natty last year. That would have tore my heart into shreds, but that almost happened.
I laughed. Because we shouldn't have been in that. When I saw we were going against Georgia, I was like, okay, we're not going to win. C.J. Stroud, I will take my hats off to him, played much better than I thought it to. But the whole time, I'm like, this is still C.J. Stroud.
Oh my God,
this is still Georgia. And now we're relying on fucking Ruggle to go out there and hit it like a 50-yard kick. Dude, I was in a room full of like diehard Ohio State fans because I'm much more into NFL than I am college. And I was just watching. And I saw about like 10 50-year-old adults lose about 10 years of their life. And I was like, that's exactly why I'm going to stop watching Ohio State.
Lucas?
I think, and you guys are Michigan fans, so agree with me, but I think Ohio State over the last 10, 15 years is always like, oh, they can win a natty, they can win a natty. But they're one of those programs who you say they can do it, but when it comes time to it, they just don't.
They haven't won since 2014. But Lucas, are you really actually saying, and I know I'm getting a little long-winded, that CJ Stroud was in any way, shape, or form responsible for them losing that game to Georgia?
No, but when people talk about CJ Stroud the way they did and say that he's better than Justin Fields,
he's not.
But people talked about him. People still to this day will say CJ Stroud's better than Justin Fields, especially in college. It's not close. The stats, yeah. But just the way that team was carried and operated was completely different, and people acted like it was the same, and it made me want to go like this after. Like, dude, I could go on for days about this.
No, I know, and that's why, hey, Sam, you wanted the smoke, and Lucas can keep going. This man does not quit. It's something about those guys from Toledo I don't understand. Shout out to the doc, John, asking a question. Mailbag, is Isaiah Stewart on the Pistons roster in 2023? I would assume so, unless he's dealt in a trade to acquire some sort of star. But again, Isaiah Stewart, I think his value, maybe according to the fans and according to the Pistons, are very different. I think the Pistons love Isaiah Stewart, and if you're going to trade him, it'd have to be for someone they absolutely love. I don't see them just trading away Isaiah to trade him. I just don't. But let's see. Sam, I know, would disagree with that.
No, I'm just going to say that he is not going to be on the roster next year because that proposed Zion Williamson trade, that's actually going to happen.
Okay.
In which they ship out Boyan and Isaiah Stewart and get Zion Williamson, and the number 5 pick goes to Charlotte. That's actually going to happen, guys.
Yeah, you heard Sam Flannel. It's correct. Let's get to some more questions. Jack says, is there going to be an NFL fantasy football draft this season? Yeah, absolutely. With everybody at Woodward Sports, we'll definitely be doing it. I was in the finals.
I'm embarrassing Jeff, by the way.
I don't. That's not in my vocabulary. You're not embarrassing.
It shouldn't be, but it's ingrained in mine just because it happens so often in fantasy. Watch what Jalen Warren's about to do to you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh my Zay God. Jones.
Get out of here. Zay Jones and Jalen Warren, they're taking me down collectively. Big show picks. Mailbag, what old Piston would you bring back to help this Pistons team make the playoffs?
I know who you're going to say.
Ben Wallace? No. Ben Wallace, Sam? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'd probably say an old Piston. Wow, there's a lot of ones. A lot of Pistons you can go with. I'll go with Rasheed Wallace.
Yep.
Okay.
Easily, Rasheed.
And for the record, if you would have said Ben Wallace, I don't necessarily despise that take. I mean, he's a great defensive player.
He's just not good enough for you.
Just not a Hall of Famer.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't
Sheed's the perfect fit.
By the way, do you have that tweet before we go about the Ben Wallace? Someone tweeted at me and came at Sam about his Ben Wallace take.
I don't think so.
It's okay. We'll pop it up tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll read one more question and we'll get out of here. Mike says mailbag. Lucas, could you cover Jeff in a one-on-one?
Cover him like in football?
Yeah.
Jeff's not getting off the line of scrimmage, okay? Look at this. Look at this.
Oh, my
165
God. No, of
testosterone,
yeah, we gotta
athleticism, and Jeff Killer.
Yeah, we got to go here. I don't know what to say. These people from Toledo are just absolutely psycho. I think if me and Lucas did a one-on-one, this man did play college football as a wide receiver. So
you know what got recruited for, though, right? DB.
You were no.
I got recruited for DB. I get sat down in the coaches. This is a true story. I'm in there with my dad, and this is just for context. This is D2. It's not D1. And they're like, "Look, you're a really good defensive back. We've seen it on film." But then they looked at me again, and like they didn't say it, but they're like, "You're white," and like you could tell by their eyes. And it's true. It's 100% true. There's Riley Moss, shout out Denver Broncos. Your path as a white DB in football is just not there.
No, I mean, that's fair. It's very fair. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us and sticking with us to the end of the show. We appreciate you. Don't forget before you leave, drop a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we thank you for your support through this very complicated week. But we're excited. Me and Sam are going to continue to do our best duty, our best job to provide you the best content from Jeff, Sam, JB, Lucas. We thank you. We'll see you guys tomorrow.